She walks it loud like a thunderstorm, debunking myths with style and form. True crime, conspiracies, her game. Melissa Jade, remember her name. She's loud, feisty, spilling tea, diving deep into mystery, breaking down your wildest claims. Melissa Jade, she's got no shame. Microphone fierce like a roaring lion, unveiling secrets people been hiding. True crime queen of the digital scene, Melissa's got you hooked on her screen. She's loud, feisty, spilling tea, diving deep into mystery, breaking down your wildest claims. Melissa Jade, she's got no shame. Murders to cover-ups, nothing misses. Melissa's here to share her guesses. She's got theories big and bold, no stone unturned, no case cold. She's loud, feisty, spilling tea, diving deep into mystery, breaking down your wildest claims. Melissa Jade, she's got no shame. Melissa Jade, she's got no shame. From murders to cover-ups, nothing misses. Melissa's here to share her guesses. She's got theories big and bold, no stone unturned, no case cold. She's loud, feisty, spilling tea, diving deep into mystery, breaking down your wildest claims. Melissa Jade, she's got no shame. 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 She's loud, feisty, spilling tea, diving deep into mystery, breaking down your wildest claims. Melissa Jade, she's got no shame.
Hello, everybody. Hi, my Shavane.
Hey, I'm Jade. Hey, everybody.
I am so excited. I am so ready. This has been long awaited. Okay, this is the first episode, our first episode of our series where we're going to go through the case against Bryan Kohberger and the Idaho 4, as they refer to it as, all the way through until his trial. And then we'll absolutely obviously be doing trial coverage, but the intention of doing these weekly recaps and discussions is so come trial, everyone here should be completely up to date, should know all of the information that you need to know, and we're going to figure this out together. And honestly, I think this is going to be one of the most let me think of the word.
It's like one of the crimes of the centuries kind of thing.
It kind of is. It's going to be a massive trial. This trial is going to be, what is it, like 3 months long right now that's set out to be?
Mm-hmm.
3 months long, over 50 terabytes of data. This is a big one, guys. And
over 61 electronic devices and 4 victims all in one trial.
And it's not a straightforward one. So me and Shay covered this case because I see like a few people are like, I'm so excited you're going to cover this. We have covered this in depth, in real time. We were on every day just as everything unfolded, and we did an intense coverage, and we pulled back because it did, the best way I could describe it is, one, as the information stopped coming in because he waived his right to a speedy trial and everything got pushed outward. Originally, it was supposed to be last October when he was set to go to trial. But honestly, I think that was the best for both sides because, like we just said, they have an overwhelming amount of information. And just from the amount of devices, like Shay just said, 61 devices alone, it would take 3 years for the expert to go through just those 61 devices. And we're talking about 51 terabytes of data. I'm sorry, over 51 terabytes. And over those, so just for those devices, 3 years it'll take to go through it. So like we're talking about an overwhelming amount of information. And I think as a defense, I kind of was like, all right, I could see if it would have been smarter to waive your right to a speedy trial, because it's kind of like, go ahead, prosecution, make your case. And I feel like giving them time, even though I understand you need time as the defense, I feel like it may have been better not to, but I know I'm jumping the gun right now. And so we're going to get into what we're going to do today is we're going to give a basic overview. Put a 1 in the chat. I hate doing this, but put a 1 in the chat if you are not familiar, just so I could gauge how specific we need to get. And we're going to do a basic overview. We're going to go through the PCA for a refresher, and then we're going to discuss the latest hearing, because I just can't help myself. Honestly, like I can't wait. There are too many ones for my liking. But that's okay. That's okay. Thank you for being here. Thank you for
What was number 1 again?
If you're not familiar. If you're not
Oh shit. Okay.
There's one, as I said, there's more ones than my liking, but okay, that's okay. That's why you came here, and this is this is what we're gonna get you completely up to date. Thank you so much, Carolyn Cooper gifted 5 memberships. Please make sure you thank Carolyn Cooper if you got one.
Truth exposed. You are not at number 1 there. No.
Yeah. I know. So I was saying, I'm like, oh my goodness. All right. So you guys, this is, and I know I'm trying to give like an explanation. You are going to be invested in this, okay? And you're going to say thank you once trial comes, because this is going to be massive. This is going to be big. This is going to be a very, very long trial. I am very curious if they're going to sequester the jury. I really think they will in this case. We're talking about 4 lives that were taken in an extremely brutal manner. Very young, beautiful students, okay? But we have a controversial case. With this case, it does not come, oh yeah, it looks very straightforward and that you got your guy. This is a case where you have really split down the middle. Like you really have half the people leaning towards Bryan Kohberger's guilt, and you have the other half leaning towards no way Jose. I lean towards Bryan's guilt, but I am open, and I'm going to go with where the evidence leads me. And that's where it led me so far, but I'm open for the discussion and to see what they come out with in trial. So I'm just so excited to go through all of it.
Me too.
Yeah. So I'm like, let me get my little thing going. Before we do, I'm going to pull up our missing child for tonight's live stream. Shay, do you want a suggestion on where to pull the child up from?
Let's do Rhode Island. I don't know why I threw that out one time before. Just a small state.
Yeah. So last night, right at the end of my live, I'm sure everyone heard about the crash. So I just want to send, not if everyone doesn't pray, that's fine, to send out positive vibes for the loved ones and the lives that were lost yesterday. That was really upsetting. As soon as I got off my live to see what was going on, and it broke my heart. So good vibes, prayers, and just a lot of positivity and love for those families and the victims. Thank you so much, Samantha, for those memberships. It was very sad. But last night we did a 5-year anniversary stream for Gannon Stauch. Monday, the 27th, this past Monday, the 27th, was the 5-year anniversary of his murder. And it was a charity stream in honor of Gannon to St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. And I am so proud and beyond blown away that we raised $3,300 in the 2 hours that I was live. And I just
Aw.
want to say, like, that is incredible, Shay. That's incredible. Okay.
Yes, that makes me want to tear up. That's amazing.
So I apologize for anyone who goes back to watch that stream itself, because I was so thrown off by the generosity and the kindness of everyone. But I just want to again say thank you. I'm blown away, and that means so much. And to have it in Gannon's name means the world to me, as I know it means the world to so many of you guys. But that was absolutely amazing. And so I just want to say thank you again, because that's absolutely incredible. I know, Samantha. It was just overwhelming. Like, that's the only way I could put it. It threw me off. I couldn't really do my coverage. Not that I'm complaining, but like, that's how much the generosity and kindness. And I so very appreciate to have the community that I have, and to have every single one of you guys, and you guys showed up, and thank you for that. Really.
Aw.
Yeah. Thank you, Joe. The 2 kids from Hanford, California were found. Oh my God. Oh Jesus. So those were the 2. We had 3 active Amber Alerts last night. 2 of them were associated children, a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old. And the dad was, they were like, this is a dangerous situation. So I'm so happy that they were found safe, but the dad was arrested for killing their mom. So both good and awful news for those babies. Thanks for sharing them out. Thank you so much for the support, Joe. I wish it was under better circumstances. I'm so happy that the babies got home, but that is horrible, man. Hey, Kit, that is heartbreaking.
Wow.
That's so sad. I'm just so thankful that they're okay, though. Like, the babies are okay, but now they don't have their mom. That's just
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking. I know,
crazy world.
Right? January, it's been a rough January 2025. I will say that. Okay, so good thing there is no, because I usually put the age 11 in when I check, only because when I start to hit the teenage years, an overwhelming amount of missing children come up, a lot teenagers, and I just try to aim for 11 and below. But it's a good thing when there is no 11 or below for that state. So I upped it up to 15, and we have 2, and this is Taya Scott. So I shared the other one before, so I'm choosing Taya. I believe you would pronounce her name right. Taya Scott.
That's how I would.
Yeah. So Taya Scott has been missing since September 11th, 2024. So it's been a few months, guys, but she's missing out of Johnston, Rhode Island. She is 15 years old. So she is a very beautiful young girl. And we have an additional photo of her. And once again, wow, what a difference her beautiful curls, her natural curls make. And then when the hair is straightened, I would not think that this is the same child,
No, I agree. Yeah. I have to double look.
Yeah, that makes it pretty hard, though, because what a difference. But if you or anyone you know has information on Taya's whereabouts, please contact the Johnston Police Department at 1-401-231-8100. Hey, Melly. And thank you, Alicia. This is for you, MJ. Thanks for all that you do and for making me laugh every night. Thank you so much. And I'm so sorry I didn't get to individually say hello to all of you. I've been so excited. I've just been, I started the live and I'm like, blah, 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 blah. I'm so ready for this. Oh, that's okay, Nola. What's great for anybody who wants to go back and donate, that live stream, it will, and the charity is always going to be active. So anybody on the replay could always go back and continue to donate, and the number will continue to go higher. 100% to St. Jude's. I'm so thankful YouTube doesn't take a cut of that either. And so it's absolutely amazing for anybody who wants to go back and contribute. So, all right. I figured I'm going to just start quickly with an article for anybody who is not familiar, to kind of just get us a basic of what happened. Please, please, please ask questions along the way. I personally struggle when I have an abundant amount of information, kind of same way with Letitia Stout, how do I go back and try to explain this to someone who doesn't have all the information? So what helps me is when you guys ask questions along the way. So please don't hesitate. Please don't feel embarrassed to ask what may seem like a simple question. That's the point of doing these discussions and these lives, is to get everybody on the same page.
Do you want to show a picture of the victims as well?
It should come up so.
Okay.
It should come up in the article. I may have actually, it may be all the way. Yep, here we are. We'll see now the video's playing over it. So 1 second.
Okay, no worries. Oh, they're there.
So this, here are our 4 victims. We have Kaylee Goncalves in the top left. And yes, they are all just beautiful. Madison Mogen, top right. Ethan Chapin, bottom left, and Xana Kernodle, bottom right. You want to give like a little where they were living in the little backstory?
Sure. So Kaylee and Maddie up top, they're both 21. They are best friends. They are from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. They've been best friends since grade school. From first boyfriends to high school. Maddie is an only child. So Kaylee has a really big family. So anything that Kaylee's family has done for weddings, Maddie's been in. Their parents treat them as they share them as their own children together. Ethan Chapin, he's from Washington State. He is a triplet. His siblings are Hunter and Maisie. He's 20 years old. He was in Sigma Chi fraternity and very, very, very well loved. His girlfriend is next to him, which is Xana. She's lived in parts of Idaho as well as in Arizona. And they were dating, and he was a guest that night staying over. And basically, they're both 20. They were very well loved, very vibrant. They all come from the Greek system, but the top 2, which would be Kaylee and Maddie, to my understanding, they weren't active anymore because they were graduating. Like Kaylee was already finished with her studies. She was getting ready to come to Austin, Texas and start school. So she had only come in town to visit to show her friends her new car she just bought. So she had not been staying at the house. And this is kind of how everything starts unfolding because their lives are on social media. And the day before their death, these 4 individuals, along with 2 surviving roommates, which is Bethany and Dylan, they have pictures in front of an apartment that are very well known and just idealistic of like college life. They're all big go-getters. And from what we knew at the time, didn't have any type of rifts or issues with other people in the community. So their deaths came a big shock to everybody. And the home that they lived in was an off-campus home, but very close. Some called it a party house. So there's been a lot that's kind of come with that.
It was most likely a party house, like from everything that, and I'm going to do our best as far as when we know something for a fact, we'll say it for a fact. When it's something that we've heard, we'll let you know, hey, this is what we heard, but we can't confirm it. And then when it's straight speculation, because there was a ton of misinformation when this case was happening in real time. And we'll let you know about that too, but we'll always be very clear with what we know for certain and what we don't know for certain. What we know to be the case most likely is that, yes, it was the house that a lot of them gathered in. It was a really nice house. There was an add-on to the house. It was big. At this point, you had 5 girls who lived there. And like Shay said, Ethan, which was Xana's boyfriend, the bottom 2, Xana bottom right, Ethan bottom left, were dating, and Ethan was just staying over for that night. These are sorority and fraternity sisters. They hung out, and brothers, they went and they hung out. They were in school, college students, having the time of their lives. Another case where you see social media take a very big role because all of their lives were so heavily documented on social media. So you have the TikToks of them and the little stories and posts and the photos, and nothing pops out of eye when you look at any of these victims as something that would concern you.
Yes. And just to answer a few questions in the chat that were curious of the Greek affiliation. So Kaylee was actually Alpha Phi. Maddie, Xana, the two surviving roommates, Dylan and Bethany, were all Pi Beta Phi. Sorry. So
Mhm.
they were all in the same sorority. Kaylee was in a different one.
So what we do know, and again, I'm going to go through this article quickly, but there were 6 people in the house on November 13th, 2022. 4 of them were killed. Obviously, that's going to jump out at you and be like, hey, what do you mean? Like 4 out of the 6 were killed. We have 2 surviving roommates here, Bethany and Dylan. What the heck happened, right? Someone came in the middle of the night and essentially slaughtered them. And this has definitely fueled a lot of the debate, a lot of the controversy for a very long time. People question the surviving roommates. Now, granted, they were pretty tight-lipped. Bryan Kohberger wasn't arrested and charged for a little while. And so it was misinformation and chaos was running rampant for a very long period of time. And it didn't stop once Kohberger was arrested because the courts have been very tight. There's been seals, there's been gags. So we're very limited with information. But we did get the most information that we've gotten so far this past week in the recent court hearing. And we'll get to that after we kind of do our recap. Okay, KDK. All right.
Oh, the only other thing I forgot to say was Kaylee actually, she had a golden doodle named Murphy that she shared with her estranged boyfriend that she was on and off again, named Jack, who did live nearby and who has been ruled out as a suspect, just so you know.
Yes. Okay. So, little recap. The killings of the 4 University of Idaho students in mid-November at an off-campus residence stunned the small community of Moscow, where investigators grappled with what the town's police chief would later describe as a very complex case. No suspect was immediately named in the deaths of housemates Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and as well as Kernodle's boyfriend, Xana's boyfriend, Ethan. Kaylee and Maddie were 21, Xana and Ethan were 20. Nor was a murder weapon believed to be a large fixed blade knife found. But the intense scrutiny on the unsolved slayings sparked thousands of tips to the FBI. Then, nearly 7 weeks later, with the community on edge and speculation swirling about who could commit such violence, police announced an arrest in Pennsylvania of a doctoral student in criminal justice. Quote, "This is not the end of the investigation," end quote. Leda County prosecuting attorney Bill Thompson said at a news conference announcing the arrest in late December. Quote, "In fact, this is a new beginning." Here's the timeline of key moments of the case. So November 12th, 2022, starting at around 9 p.m., Xana and Ethan are seen at a party at Ethan's fraternity, Sigma Chi. I'm sorry, I did it again. Wow, it's been a long time, and I did it.
I still hear people call it Sigma Chi. It's funny. It's okay.
So Shay would always have to correct me. I did not live the fraternity sorority life, and so I would always call it Sigma Chi, and she would be like, "It's Sigma Chi." So I did it again. It was like muscle memory, man.
My ex was Sigma Chi, so I know that one really well.
I have no idea. Oh my gosh. So they were seen at a party Saturday night. This is Ethan and Xana. A short walk from the King Road apartment house where the roommates lived, according to investigators. Okay, so there's 2 out of 4 of our victims. That Saturday night, they were at a fraternity party. That night, Kaylee uploads pictures to her Instagram account featuring photos of the friends with the caption, "One lucky girl to be surrounded by these people every day." So again, this was a Saturday night in Idaho, partying, having a great time. Everything seemed normal. And at about 10 p.m., Kaylee and Maddie go to a sports bar in Moscow, the Corner Club. So then we have November 13th, 2022, if you want to read this.
At about 1:30 a.m., Goncalves and Mogen are seen ordering from a nearby food truck, according to the truck's live stream. And investigators say Kernodle and Chapin returned to their 3-level house on Keene Road at about 1:45 a.m., while Goncalves and Mogen take a car ride home, arriving at about 1:56 a.m. Meanwhile, 2 other housemates who had gone out the other night had arrived home before the others at about 1 a.m., Moscow police say. At 11:58 a.m., a 911 call is placed on the cell phone of one of the other housemates requesting assistance for an unconscious person. Both housemates were unharmed. Police alert the public about the deaths in the news release, and while they say no one is in custody, they do not believe there is an ongoing community risk based on information gathered during the preliminary investigation.
Which, pause, and I know I'm not trying to jump ahead, but I've always taken issue with that. And there's going to be a lot of topics we discuss that issues originate back to the first few days here. And things like, and it reminds me of Delphi, right? There's no concern for no risk for the community. Meanwhile, 4 young, beautiful students were slayed in their homes, and the killer's on the loose. And you're telling me the same with Delphi, right? You had these 2 young, beautiful girls, absolutely horrific circumstances, and you're saying there's no concern. Not sure why. We still don't know why, but that's what they told the community. So November 16th, 3 days later, with no suspect apprehended, Moscow police walk back previous comments that there was no threat to the largely rural city of almost 26,000 residents. We do not have a suspect at this time, and that individual is still out there, Moscow Police Chief James Fry says at a news conference. He adds that there is more than 25 investigators with the Idaho State Police and the FBI are assisting in the case. So November 17th.
Preliminary autopsy results show that the 4 victims were likely attacked with a large knife and died sometime after 2 a.m. from multiple stab wounds, Latah County Coroner Kathy Mabbitt says. She describes their wounds as pretty extensive. And actually, like, just to pause there real quick, I think what's one thing that was so interesting about this case, beyond what we've probably experienced in other true crime, has been the excuse me, sorry, has been the coroner speaking like to news reporters. Like, that was very, very weird.
And victims' families.
Yes. It was just it was bizarre to me, very bizarre.
And you know, I know that we didn't literally say, but these victims were killed with a K-bar knife. It is a very big weapon, and the damage done was extensive. We still do not to this day have all of the information, but the information that we do have is very disturbing. It was a very bad scene, so bad that you will see in a photo I will show that blood was literally dripping outside of this house. Okay, that is it. The murders took place in 2 different rooms, 2 victims per room, and it was horror, pure horror. And again, 2 roommates survived.
You say horror like, sorry, Jen McCabe does from the Caribbean case. Horror. Yeah.
Sorry.
Horror. I love it. Horror.
Sorry.
When you know, you know.
Because there's a gag and there's a seal and everything's been tight-lipped. That's why I'm saying, fight me, dishwasher. Like, we're about to find out all together information that we've been waiting for years. The family has been waiting years, you know, like, but now that we're approaching closer to trial, what we just had this week, we got the first bits of really information that we've ever had since this case happened. And it's really exciting. And I don't want to use that in the wrong sense, but like it's exciting as far as we will get some answers and we'll hopefully be able to figure out what happened here. But we don't know all of the wounds. And again, we'll tell you what we've heard. We'll tell you rumors. We'll tell you things that are likely true but can't verify 100%. And then we'll tell you facts. Hi, Anyanka. So November 18th, okay? Now we're 5 days after the murders. Police say the victims were most likely asleep when they were slain, and some of them had defensive wounds. There was also no sign of sexual assault. Meanwhile, detectives seized the contents of 3 dumpsters near the home to search for possible evidence, and they contact local businesses to determine if a knife had recently been purchased. November 30th.
Vigil is held at the University of Idaho in honor of the victims, with some family members in attendance. We're going to get our justice, Steve Goncalves, Kaylee's father says, adding that his daughter and Mogen had been best friends since the 6th grade, and he had learned that they were in the same bed when they were killed. They went to high school together. Then they started looking at colleges. They came here together. They eventually get into the same apartment together, he said. And in the end, they died together.
Oh, that always gets me, man.
Mm.
December 1st, 2022. Moscow police reaffirm the quadruple homicide was part of a targeted attack after authorities appeared to suggest the opposite. We remain consistent in our belief that this was indeed a targeted attack, but have not concluded if the target was the residence itself or its occupants, a police spokesperson says. The department also continues to dispel online rumors and speculation and says it has cleared certain people seen interacting with Goncalves and Mogen on the evening they were killed. Police also say the 2 housemates who were home during the attack had been sleeping that night. So again, prepare to be a little bit confused as we move on, because original statements are going to later come out to not be the case, hence why it fueled a lot of controversy. But I just want to forewarn you guys, because later on you might be like, well, wait, didn't you say in the beginning? Yes, but we'll get there. So at this point, the internet's going crazy. People are fighting the footage of the last moments of the victims hours before when they were alive. And every single person you could imagine being blamed, especially Kaylee's boyfriend, technically ex-boyfriend, but I don't want to confuse you guys. Kaylee's boyfriend at the time, everyone blamed them. Like, everyone blamed them. And it was a crap show, okay?
Well, and I think also, like, the biggest thing to highlight is that word target was very confusing to the people in Moscow of what that actually meant. And depending on who was explaining what that meant, it caused so much confusion in this case.
Right. And the fact that there were these 2 roommates that were seemingly unharmed, and the 911 call comes in very late, almost noon the next morning. People really had a big issue with this. How is that possible? Did they hear nothing? What the hell happened? Okay. So then we have December 2nd.
The 2 housemates, Bethany Funk and Dylan Mortensen, released letters saying they are struggling to accept why the lives of 4 beautiful people were taken so brutally.
And again, those are our 2 surviving roommates who were in the house. December 5th. Detectives focus on Ethan and Xana's activities on the evening that they were killed and ask the public for information about the nearly 5 hours from when the couple arrived at that Sigma Chi party to the apartment house on King Road. December 6th.
All right, December 6th. The police say they recognize how frustrating the lack of news can be for the families and the public, but insist they do not want to jeopardize the case. We are at the point in the investigation where we're still gathering information, we're still gathering tips, we're still gathering evidence. We're still doing everything we need to do, Fry says in a video posted online.
So this is our house It's a very confusing house. There's a back door, there's a front door. Again, that's because an extension was added. This back part is the extension. But
There wasn't snow on the ground the day of the incident, just so
correct.
everybody knows.
So December 7th, police begin removing personal items of the victims from the apartment house and returning them to their families. They also announce what appears to be an integral part of the investigation. They say they're looking to speak with any occupants of a white Hyundai Elantra from 2011 to 2013 with an unknown license plate. They do not say whether they believe the driver is linked to the killer, but say that the person may have critical information to share. December 15th.
Christy Goncalves, Kaylee's mother, expresses frustration during an interview with NBC's Today Show that she only learned about the police interest in the Hyundai Elantra when the rest of the public did, underscoring how some victims' families feel left in the dark.
So December 21st, Chief Fry tells NBC News that his department is in daily contact with families, and we ask them to be patient as the investigation progresses. The police chief again insists the investigation is not a cold case, and our end goal is to bring somebody to justice for those families and for those victims. December 30th.
Police announced an arrest of a suspect, Bryan Kohberger, 28, a resident of Pullman, Washington, then a doctoral student at Washington State University. He is apprehended in northeastern Pennsylvania, about 2,500 miles from the Idaho campus, and charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and burglary. According to 2 law enforcement,
Your audio went out, Shay. Shay? Hey, baby? I see you're muted now. Maybe it's her earbuds. It says, according to 2 law enforcement sources, DNA evidence played a key role in linking the killings to Kohberger. This is going to be the exact issue that is going to come into play, and it's going to be a major role in this trial. I'll explain to you after. So at a news conference, Chief Fry says he believes Kohberger is the only suspect. Quote, what I can tell you is that we have an individual in custody who committed these horrible crimes, he says. And I do believe our community is safe. Okay, so now they have Bryan Kohberger arrested. Obviously, the internet went crazy trying to figure out who this Kohberger was. And thank you, Two Finger McGillicuddy. I'm going to dox MJ. She wears mismatched socks. Oh, snap. Don't put me on blast like that. And I do. Ain't no shame in my sock game. Thank you. Are you back, Shay?
Yes, I'm sorry. I had a call. I had to put my phone on D&D. I'm sorry.
You're fine. Okay, so we're up to December 31st. Go ahead, you can read it.
Okay, sorry. I had to text my dad back. Okay. The public defender of Monroe County, Pennsylvania, where Kohberger is being held, says the suspect intends to waive his extradition hearing to face charges in Idaho. He shouldn't be presumed innocent until proven otherwise. Wait, what? He should be, sorry. He should be presumed innocent until proven otherwise, not tried in the court of public opinion. Jason Labar says in a statement, adding, Mr. Kohberger is eager to be exonerated of these charges and looks forward to resolving these matters as promptly as possible.
Thank you, HM. I love your mismatched socks. Fall, fall, fall. Thank you. And yeah, they have those sets now, truly. That's so funny. So here is a photo of our, at this point, suspect, but the person charged in the murder of these 4 beautiful students. This is Bryan Kohberger. So January 3rd, Kohberger appears in court and agrees to return to Idaho because, again, he was arrested at his parents' house in Pennsylvania at the time. January 4th.
Kohberger is flown across country in a Pennsylvania state police plane and booked into the Latah County, Idaho jail. And people, like, we followed the plane. Like, it was
Yeah.
intense.
We followed the plane in real time. It was a crazy time. It was a crazy time. Kohberger makes his first appearance in an Idaho court and is ordered held without bail. Another pretrial hearing was set for January 12th. Investigators say male DNA discovered on a knife sheath was used to link Kohberger to the crime scene, and that they had been tracking his car, a white Hyundai Elantra, and cell phone use in the area. So, what was left behind at the crime scene, guys, underneath one of the victims, Maddie, was a knife sheath. If you don't know what a knife sheath is, it's what the knife goes into, and it's usually attached to the belt. And it snaps, and then when you unsnap it when you want to pull the knife out. That was left underneath the body of like slightly underneath the body of one of the victims. Don't know how it came off. That's caused a lot of controversy in itself. But on the button snap, they did recover DNA. Touch DNA. And you'll see that they used IgG, they used genealogical testing, which is like 23andMe, Ancestry.com. When you submit your DNA, they used basically like the backdoor method. And welcome and thank you, Steph, for 11 months. Does BK have access to YouTube? No, he doesn't currently. But basically, they got this DNA, they used those DNA sites to link up familial matches, and that's what essentially led investigators to Kohberger. That is a major issue in the trial that defense is trying to get completely thrown out, but we'll get into that a little bit ahead of time. Hi, Kiana. So January 18th.
A list of items seized from a search warrant for Kohberger's Pullman, Washington apartment is made public. The belongings include a pillow with a reddish-brown stain, a disposable glove, and at least a dozen strands of hair.
February 28th, a search warrant for the home of Kohberger's parents in Old Brightsville, Pennsylvania, reveals more items seized, including fall medical-styled gloves, a silver flashlight, and a buccal swab DNA test. March 13th.
Prosecutors seek data for major tech firms such as Apple and Amazon, as well as social media platforms and retailers, as part of their investigation. According to court documents made public, they also request bank and social media information tied to the 4 victims in order to build a digital picture of the crime and the suspect.
April 21st, Bethany Funk, one of the surviving roommates, files a motion to quash a subpoena that would require her to testify at Kohberger's preliminary hearing in June. While an investigator for his defense said in an affidavit that she knows information that would be exculpatory to the defendant, Funk in her motion said the statement is without support and there is no further information or detail pertaining to the substance of this testimony, its materiality, or the alleged exculpatory information. Pause. Again, there was mayhem surrounding this case in real time, and people not only started digging into every aspect of the victim's life, these 2 surviving roommates, and yes, I can absolutely acknowledge in real time, we all had questions and things weren't adding up, but these surviving roommates truly got dragged through the mud so much. You guys know how sometimes the true crime community and the internet work. People didn't have the answers, so they made the answers, and they were accusing these surviving roommates of covering something up, committing the murders themselves, like some crazy ass shit. April 26th.
Funk agrees to interview with the defense counsel according to a court filing, but she won't have to travel to Idaho.
May 4th. Newly released police body cam video shows Kohberger being pulled over for allegedly running a red light in Pullman. In October of 2022, about a month before the slayings in Moscow, Washington State University campus police let him go with a warning. May 16th.
A Latah County grand jury returns an indictment against Kohberger on the murder charges, paving the way for an arraignment and trial.
May 22nd, Kohberger during his arraignment stands silent when asked to enter a plea, prompting Latah County District Judge John Judge to enter a not guilty plea on his behalf on the murder and burglary charges. A trial is tentatively set for October 2nd. So again, that was last October. In addition, prosecutors have 60 days to give notice if they'll seek the death penalty. June 16th.
DNA on the knife sheath found at the off-campus home directly links Kohberger to the crime scene, according to court documents filed by prosecutors.
And sorry, because I saw Diana said, it is strange that they did not hear anything, but it's not illegal. No, they did. Just wait. Like we're doing our best to go back. Sorry. We're doing our best to go back. But this is why I said I'm going to struggle, because we have found out a lot this week. And just wait. I promise. Just hold on. Okay. It's mind-blowing. Sorry. It's mind-blowing, at least for someone who's done the coverage in real time and figured little bit. And what we found out this week, I'm just like, I want to burst out with it, but I'm doing my best not to. Did I read? Yeah. Okay. So June 22nd, Kohberger's attorney says in a court filing that there is no connection between him and the slain students, and that other men's DNA was also found at the scene. His attorney also claims that the police investigated various possible suspects, many of whom provided DNA, including at least one who allegedly had his DNA surreptitiously taken from a discarded cigarette, and others who had their phones taken and downloaded, the filing says. June 26th.
Prosecutors say they will seek the death penalty against Kohberger if he is convicted, writing in a court filing that aggravating circumstances in the especially heinous killings led to the decision. Idaho has not carried out an execution since 2012.
July 4th. Some families of the victims speak out against the University of Idaho's plan to demolish the King Road residence before the start of the fall semester on August 21st. The home itself has enormous evidentiary value, as well as being the largest and one of the most important pieces of evidence in the case, an attorney of the Goncalves family tells the Idaho Statesman. But the school responds that neither the prosecution nor the defense is objecting to the demolition. So July 12th.
Reversing course, the University of Idaho says it will halt tearing down the King Road home. We know that every action and decision around this horrific incident is painful and invokes emotion, University President Scott Green says in a statement. That is why every decision we have made thus far is with the families of the victims and our students in mind. And then I'm just going to add something to the end he didn't say, and their own pocketbooks.
Correct. And yes, firing squad. He could, now I don't think it'll happen if he was, but yes, he has the potential of going up against the firing squad. July 25th, 2023, Kohberger's lawyers filed a motion seeking to get his indictment dismissed, arguing that the grand jury was misled as to the standard of proof required for an indictment. They say the standard should be beyond a reasonable doubt, but claim the grand jury was erroneously instructed with presentment, which they would mean having a reasonable ground for believing the defendant has committed an alleged offense. So when it's grand juries and indictments, guys, you do not have to, it's not beyond a reasonable doubt. That's not the same as finding them guilty during a trial. This is grand jury. August 23rd, 2023.
Kohberger waives his, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, yes, the firing squad is a real thing, but again, like they haven't had to use it in a while.
Kohberger waives his right to a speedy trial during an appearance in Latah County Court, where his legal team says it may not be ready by the October start date. A new date has not been immediately decided. His lawyers also say that they will file a motion to strike the death penalty and file another motion seeking to ban cameras in the courtroom.
October 31st, 2023, federal investigators returned to the King Road home to gather more evidence and create a replica of the residence that can be used at trial. So this is November 13th, 2023, the 1-year anniversary of the slayings.
Can you scroll back up to that one date above that you just said, the replica? Because I think this is, yeah, I think this is really important because a lot of people, they saw that FBI was back out there doing their scanning. And I actually saw on a segment that Duty Ron had, MJ, that one of, how do I say this? One, somebody that works for a company that develops that type of software programming for imaging of like 3D imaging for the homes said that since the killings, there has been new software that came out, and most likely that's why they went back in October to do another imaging scan, so they would have that 3D. Because a lot of people thought that that seemed like they weren't on top of their game from the get-go, but it was more so that technology had advanced. I thought that was really interesting.
Definitely.
November 13th, 2023, the University of Idaho marks 1 year since the slayings with a vigil in the victim's honor.
Hey, Sin. Yeah. December 14th, Kohberger's defense team is permitted inside the King Road home to gather documentation it needs before trial. December 15th, 2023.
A Latah County District Court denies the defense team's request to dismiss the indictment against Kohberger on various reasons. Kohberger had failed to successfully challenge the indictment on grounds of juror bias, lack of sufficient admissible evidence, or prosecutorial misconduct. Judge John Judge writes, gosh, that one. Kohberger was indicted by an impartial grand jury who had sufficient admissible evidence to find probable cause to believe Kohberger committed the crimes alleged by the state. Details of the ruling itself remain sealed. A lot is sealed in this case, just so everyone knows.
A lot. And so where we would usually see lawyers advocating and kind of speaking out on behalf of their clients, we can't in this case. It is sealed. It is under gag order. And yes, again, just to answer the question verbally, Bryan has a public defender, but Ann Taylor is a boss-ass bitch. Okay, that's the best way I could explain it. She is great. He got very lucky for the public defender he has. And this is going to be a like, and because it comes out wrong, and I'm not trying, like, justice and truth is what is most important here. But I enjoy when you have great defense and great prosecution, and you really get to hear the arguments. And this is going to be a very interesting trial. But to be fair, yep, that's a lot of lawyers, you know, and everyone has the right for the best defense that they can get. And it's part of due process. It's part of our country. And whether or not I believe Bryan is guilty, he deserves to have the best defense he can get. And she is pretty damn good.
She has to do everything she can because it can go against appeals, you know, if he is convicted.
Yes. So December 21st, 2023, Latah County prosecutors file a request for Kohberger's trial to be held in the summer of 2024. December 28th.
The King Road house is demolished despite objections from two of the victims' families who say it should remain standing for trial in the event it would help understand what happened. But Latah County prosecutors tell the University of Idaho in an email from December 22nd that the current condition of the premises is so substantially different than at the time of the homicides that a jury view would not be authorized. And if I'm correct, I believe both the families are the Goncalves family and the Kernodles.
Mm-hmm. So again, this is the house once it was boarded up, guys, and about to be demolished. But that's what it looked like. March 1st, the Goncalves and Kernodle families release a statement voicing their frustration after a judge at a hearing suggests the murder trial likely won't begin until 2025, which is exactly where we're at, guys. April 17th.
Kohberger's lawyers file an updated alibi defense saying that cell phone tower data will show he liked to take late night drives along the Washington-Idaho border, but was miles away when the victims were killed. They said they intend to rely on testimony at the trial from cell tower data expert Cy Ray.
So the defense put forward their alibi, which was like, right, if it wasn't Kohberger, what was he doing that night? What's his alibi? And usually to meet the requirements of an alibi, it has, like, there's requirements for it. Kohberger's defense put forward, and when I say this, I'm not saying jump to conclusions, but it was really poor at the time. And it came out that he liked to go for late night drives, can't tell you where he went, can't tell you what exact time he went, can't tell you anyone he passed, can't tell you anyone who was a witness, CCTV, nothing. And he liked to stargaze. He liked to go out at nighttime and take a look at the stars. And so you bet your bottom dollar we pulled up the exact weather and forecast and visibility for that night to see if there was even possibility of seeing stars that night. But I'm getting ahead of myself. May 31st, a hearing scheduled for June over whether to move the trial out to Leda County is delayed until August 29th. The filing comes a day after another pretrial motion hearing in which Cy Ray testified. June 27th.
The judge lays out a plan that would allow Kohberger's trial to commence in June 2025. Both his legal team and prosecutors agree.
August 29th, a change of venue hearing is held to determine whether Bryan Kohberger's trial should be moved out of Leda County, but the judge says he needs more time to conduct research before making a decision. September 5th.
In new filings, Kohberger's attorneys argue that the state's pursuit of the death penalty violates the U.S. Constitution.
September 6th, the judge grants the defense's request for a new trial venue outside of Leda County, but doesn't immediately decide where. September 12th.
I like this document, by the way.
It's pretty good, right?
Yeah, it's a good recap. The Idaho Supreme Court orders the trial be moved 300 miles from Latah County to Ada County, where the state capital of Boise is located. The case is expected to be reassigned to District Court Judge Stephen Hippler. And just a little side note for everyone, this is actually where the Daybell's trial was held, in Ada County as well.
And
for
then,
anybody who followed that.
Mm-hmm. And then the last for this article, October 8th, Hippler, the new judge in the case, orders the trial to begin on August 11th, 2025, and says it could run about 3 months, including a penalty phase if needed. Okay. I know. So now what I want to do is I want to go over that PCA quickly as we can. But like kind of like go through it so you guys know, all right, what did they charge? Like what's the case against Bryan Kohberger? What did they use to make the arrest and charge Bryan Kohberger? But before we do, this is one of the first images, and trigger warning, even though I don't, just trigger warning for anyone. This was one of the first images that came out from the house, and it kind of sums up how bad we don't have all the information from inside this house, okay, and what happened. But this was literally one of the very first images we saw. So 4 victims, 2 in one room on the top floor, 2 in one room on the ground floor, second floor, because there's 2 ground floors in this house. It's a very confusing setup. But what we know is that there is blood that was literally seeping out of the foundation. Okay? We're talking about, this is a very horrific scene. It was a very horrific murders.
And this allegedly is from Xana's room.
Yes, which would have Xana and Ethan.
Mm-hmm.
So you had Maddie and Kaylee on the 3rd floor. The 3rd floor is the only floor that was not ground level. They were in one bed together. We know they were both under the influence. And what we do know from information that has come out in an interview with Kaylee's parents, Maddie had a single-size bed. Maddie was laying on the outside. The bed is up against the wall, so Kaylee was on the inside. And when she was found, she was kind of up in the corner, up against the back corner, sitting up, slumped over. It most likely was Maddie who was attacked first, and Kaylee the same way. I don't know if anyone has ever slept on the inside of a bed with someone on the outside up against the wall. Even trying to get the covers off of you kind of get trapped because it's up against the wall, you know? Uh-huh. So there was essentially, and I'll show you guys the layout of the house. She was trapped. There would have never been anywhere for her to get out of that room. And this struggle most likely is what ended up unattaching the sheath from the killer's. I don't know if it was on his waistband, in his pocket. I don't know. But that sheath ended up underneath Maddie's leg, slightly exposed, which we're going to see in the affidavit. But then you had Xana and Ethan on the 2nd floor, which is a ground floor, in her room. And what we do know is DoorDash was delivered right at the same time frame that the murders occurred, which is going to be another big thing in it. But go ahead.
And I was also going to mention that Maddie had an M in her window, and with the sheath being left right there, that is some speculation of why people thought like she may be a targeted person based on just knowing kind of where her room may be. If this is why a motive was there, I think a lot of that's to be determined still.
All right, so let's which
PCA?
Yeah.
First, just do Idaho's.
Yeah, that's the one with Brett Payne.
Okay. Yeah, I gave you the other ones just because in case we look at some of the court stuff. Yeah.
All right. So, PCA. So, all right? Tell us because this is what you guys are going to need to know. Tell us what the case is against Bryan Kohberger, why they arrested him, how is it him? This is what we're going to go through, and then we're going to just talk about what we now know. The below information is provided by Brett Payne. Okay, don't need to kind of go through that. On November 13th, 2022, at approximately 4 p.m., Moscow Police Department Sergeant Blaker and I responded to 1122 King Road, Moscow, Idaho, hereafter the King Road residence, to assist with scene security and processing of a crime scene associated with 4 homicides. Upon our arrival, the Idaho State Police forensic team was on scene and was preparing to begin processing the scene. MPD Officer Smith, one of the initial responding officers to the incident, advised that he would walk me through the scene. You want to do paragraph for paragraph?
Sure. OFC Smith and I entered the King Road residence through the bottom floor door on the north side of the building. OFC Smith and I then walked upstairs to the 2nd floor. OFC Smith directed me down the hallway to the west bedroom on the 2nd floor, which I later learned through Xana's driver's license and other personal belongings found in the room was Xana Kernodle's hereafter Kernodle room. Just before this room, there was a bathroom door on the south wall of the hallway. As I approached the room, I could see a body, later identified as Kernodle's, laying on the floor. Kernodle was deceased with wounds which appeared to have been caused by an edged weapon.
And again, we'll take you guys through walkthroughs of the house so you could get a visual. Like, just bear with us, and You'll be an expert by the end.
Mm-hmm.
Also in the room was a male, later identified as Ethan Chapin, hereby Chapin. Chapin was also deceased, with wounds later determined to be caused by sharp force injuries.
I then followed OFC Smith upstairs to the third floor of the residence. The third floor consisted of 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. The bedroom on the west side of the floor was later determined to be Kaylee Goncalves, hereafter Goncalves' room. I later learned from review of Officer Nunez's body camera there was a dog in the room when Moscow police officers initially responded. The dog belonged to Goncalves and her ex-boyfriend Jack DeCur. I found out from my interview with Jack DeCur on November 13, 2022, that he and Goncalves shared the dog. OFC Smith then pointed out a small bathroom on the east side of the third floor. This bathroom shared a wall with Madison Mogen's, hereafter Mogen, bedroom, which was situated at the southeast corner of the third floor.
As I entered this bedroom, okay, so this is the top third floor bedroom, guys. The only floor that isn't ground level. As I entered this bedroom, I could see 2 females in the single bed in the room. Both Kaylee and Maddie were deceased with visible stab wounds. I also later noticed what appeared to be a tan leather knife sheath laying on the bed next to Maddie's right side when viewed from the door. The sheath was later processed and had K-Bar, USMC, and the United States Marine Corps Eagle Globe and anchor insignia stamped on the outside of it. The Idaho State Lab later located a single source of male DNA, suspect profile, left on the button snap of the knife sheath.
As part of the investigation, numerous interviews were conducted by Moscow Police Department officers, Idaho State Police detectives, and FBI agents. 2 of the interviews included BF and DM, which is Bethany Funk and Dylan Mortensen. Both BF and DM were inside the King Road residence at the time of the homicides and were roommates of the victims. BF's bedroom was located on the east side of the first floor of the King Road residence.
Okay, and sorry, just because I see the chat going. So here's the thing. There are, and I'm going to jump back and I'm not going to talk about what we now know. There is footage and audio caught. The neighboring house, it did capture audio of the murders. We know that. There was a YouTuber, Joseph Morris, who released an alleged leak of that audio. What he did was he changed, it was Mel who exposed this. He changed an article to say things that it did not. And he took a DV incident from another live stream that happened and clipped it together and released it as if it was the Idaho murders. It does exist. That is not what it was. But we have still shots from that exact camera on the night of the murders, and that is legit. Just the audio that was released is not legit.
Right.
You could, okay. So based on numerous interviews conducted by MPD officers, ISP detectives, and FBI agents, as well as my review of evidence, I have learned the following. On the evening of November 12th, which is the night before, okay? So it was the 13th, but it was the early morning hours of the 13th. So the 12th is Saturday night, guys. On the evening of Saturday night, the 12th, Ethan and Xana are seen by Bethany Funk, one of the surviving roommates, at the Sigma Chi house on the University of Idaho campus from approximately 9 p.m. to 1:45 a.m. on the 13th, the early morning hours of the murder. Bethany also estimated that approximately 1:45, Ethan and Xana returned home to the King Road residence. Bethany also stated that Ethan did not live in the King Road residence, but he was a guest of Kernodle because that was her boyfriend, so he was staying there with them.
Goncalves and Mogen were at a local bar, the Corner Club, at 202 North Main Street in Moscow. Goncalves and Mogen can be seen on video footage provided by the Corner Club between 10 p.m. on November 12th and 1:30 a.m. on November 13th. At approximately 1:30 a.m., Goncalves and Mogen can be seen on video at a local food vendor called the Grub Truck at 318 South Main Street in downtown Moscow. The Grub Truck live streams video from their food truck on the streaming platform Twitch, which is available for public viewing on their website. This video is captured by law enforcement. A private party, Blank, reported that he provided a ride to Goncalves and Mogen at approximately 1:56 a.m. from downtown Moscow in front of the Grub Truck to the King Road residence. And can I just add to this, because I feel like this is necessary?
Yes.
So if you like listen to interviews from the Goncalves family, Olivia, which is Kaylee's older sister, they still Kaylee was still on their phone plan. So they started like cold calling phone numbers of who she was in contact with that night. And they got in touch with the private driver, and he was the one who said he picked them up from the Grub Truck. They went and obtained that video evidence, and they're the ones who turned it over to Moscow. So her family was, very active in wanting some answers. I think that should be known.
Yep.
And trying to get the timeline together, because it just kind of seemed a little bit all over the place at first, which is natural at the beginning of an investigation.
Mm-hmm. And thank you, 2112 says, MJ is laying out the evidence in such a meticulous manner while laying the proper foundation and explaining admissibility issues along the way. I just can't stand it. Nice work, MJ. I adore you, 2112 guy. Thank you so much for the support, though. You're so silly. Thanks, Neat Noodle. It's actually harder, at least for me, like struggling with ADHD and stuff. It really is hard for me to go back and explain it for people who don't know. So I apologize, because I don't know why it's that much of a struggle for me. It really is with too much information. I feel like just like with it's too much. And I'm like, how do I go back and kind of make it black and white for someone who didn't follow it all? Like it's difficult.
I think you're doing a good job. I mean, we both tend to squirrel sometimes, but I think we're doing the best we can. And, we did take a pivotal change in the case where we started debunking a lot of rumors too. So we've covered this case in different varieties,
Yeah, we sure did. Thanks, guys. So it says Dylan and Bethany both made statements during interviews that indicated the occupants of the King Road residence were at home about 2 a.m. and asleep, or at least in their rooms by approximately 4 a.m. This is with the exception of Xana, who received a DoorDash order at the residence at approximately 4 a.m. Law enforcement identified the DoorDash delivery driver who reported this information themselves. Thank you, Antonio and Telvin. Shay, you're killing it too. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
I adore you, 2112. Thank you. Thanks, guys. You guys are the best. Thanks. As someone else with attention issues, you both do excellent jobs. Back to my bushes to get a shower. Enjoy your shower, Natasha. Thanks, guys. You guys are just so supportive. All right.
I think there's also, it's like we put so much weight on it because it means so much to us. We want justice for the victims.
It does. It means a lot. Okay.
You want me to read this one?
Yes.
DM stated she originally went to sleep in her bedroom on the southeast side of the second floor. DM stated she was awoken at approximately 4 a.m. by what she stated sounded like Goncalves playing with her dog in one of the upstairs bedrooms, which were located on the third floor. A short time later, DM said she heard who she thought was Goncalves saying something to the effect of, "There's someone here." A review of records obtained from a forensic download of Kernodle's phone showed this could have also been Kernodle, as her cellular phone indicated she was likely awake and using the TikTok app at approximately 4:12 a.m.
Now, just to pause, again, if we go back, remember that original press conference said that everyone was likely asleep, right? That's not the case. So some were most likely asleep. But Xana had just gotten a DoorDash order, and she was actively scrolling on TikTok at 4:12 a.m. This is literally minutes before the murders really are supposed to occur. So it's really it's one of those things that I said earlier that as this came out in real time, people took great issue with it.
Also, this is a 6-bedroom house, so a lot of people had assumed that the surviving roommates were on the first floor. That's where their bedrooms were located.
Right.
Some people ahead of this, through just research, put Dylan on the second floor, but the real confirmation in court documents came through the affidavit that there was a surviving victim on the second floor.
Yeah. So Dylan, and she's going to kind of take the main focus as one of the surviving roommates because of what she saw and heard. Okay. So Dylan stated that she looked out of her bedroom but did not see anything when she heard the comment about someone being in the house. Dylan stated that she opened her bedroom door a second time when she heard what she thought was crying coming from Xana's room. Dylan then said she heard a male voice say something to the effect of, "It's okay, I'm going to help you."
At approximately 4:17 a.m., a security camera located at 1112 King Road, a residence immediately to the northwest of 1122 King Road, picked up distorted audio of what sounded like voices or a whimper, followed by a loud thud. A dog can also be heard barking numerous times starting at 4:17 a.m. The security camera is less than 50 feet from the west wall of Kernodle's bedroom.
So Dylan, and that's the audio that was, hey, Pointer Lover, that was the audio that was created. So it exists, but people tried to fake it. Dylan stated that she opened her bedroom door now for a third time after she heard the crying and saw a figure clad in black clothing and a mask that covered the person's mouth and nose walking towards her. Dylan described the figure as 5 foot 10 inches or taller, male, not very muscular, but athletically built with bushy eyebrows. The male walked past Dylan as she stood in a, quote, frozen shock phase. The male walked towards the back sliding glass door. Dylan locked herself in her room after seeing the male. Dylan did not state that she recognized the male. This leads investigators to believe that the murderer left the scene. And I'm going to look for that walkthrough of the house right now quickly, Shay. But again, you guys also please keep in mind, this was a house that, they had 5 girls who lived there. There were constantly people in and out, constantly people who stayed later than the other roommates' friends stayed. And so I just want to, remind you that it wouldn't be the same if the home that you live in, the exact amount of people who are there, if people are or aren't supposed to be there. This was a college house that I'm sure it was very normal to see people that you didn't necessarily invite, but could be your roommate's friend or whatever. But yes, everything else with it is concerning. But my point is just seeing a person itself, I don't know if that would be so out of the norm.
Right. And I dropped it in back chat, yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. So you want to pause real quickly so we can give them the layout?
Yeah. Let's do that. Because sometimes it's just so much easier.
Yeah. Let us give you a tour real quick of the actual house. If you're a visual person like we are, you need to understand what we're looking at. So here we're going to have a virtual tour of the house. Okay, we're starting at the front of the house. Again, there was an extension built on. So there's technically 2 ground floors because it's on a slant. So you have the bottom ground floor from the front of the house, and then you're going to have the background floor okay, which is technically the second floor, but I'll show you guys. So this is going into the front of the house, okay?
And the house they're seeing that caught the audio is the one right next to it, that blue one.
This one right here,
Yeah.
okay?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're looking at the front of the house, this is what you see. You go in, okay? This first floor, one of the surviving roommates is on this first floor, Bethany, okay? So there's 2 bedrooms down here. There's 2 bedrooms on each floor, but Bethany's room is down here. This is where Bethany was staying at the time of the murders, okay? As far as we know currently, the killer never came to this floor.
Mm-hmm.
So then you make your way up these stairs, okay? This is also a ground floor if you entered through the back of the house, but technically the second floor. So when you come up again, you're looking down those stairs, there's that front door. Now you're upstairs, okay? This is the common area, okay? This is the space that kind of acted like their living room. If we look to the right here, this is going to be Xana's bedroom over here. So we're going to move forward. This is the bathroom, and damn, it took me like, okay, perfect. So see, that's the common area. That's the living room. Okay, so we walked in this little hallway. Here's a bathroom and laundry room, and this is Xana's room. This is where Xana and Ethan and their bodies were. Remember that photo I showed you guys where there was blood dripping? It would have been right here against this wall, okay? It would have been dripping from that back wall outside of the house, okay?
And the room on the first floor below Xana and Ethan's was not occupied. So Bethany was on the first floor, but her room was underneath Dylan Mortenson's that was on the second floor, just so you know.
Right. So this is, Ethan was found in an unknown position and location. So the bed was right here. Xana was found here, okay? So if we look out their window, this is the front of the house, okay? So we're going to leave Xana's room. We're going to go back into that living room area. We're going to move this way. As you're going to see here, there's those backsliding doors. That, again, this is the ground floor also, and it's those backsliding doors that most likely the killer came through. So you have the kitchen here, okay? You have the stairs going up to that third floor. Again, the only floor that is not ground level. But right here is Dylan's room. So when we're going through the PCA right now, and it explains how Dylan was sleeping and she kept hearing noises. This is where she is, okay? She's laying in her bed, imagine. And she keeps waking up from hearing the dog barking, hearing cries and whimpers. And she gets up 3 times and she goes to this door right here. And based on her statements, when she cracks open this door, this is what she would have seen. It would have been dark. It would have been somewhat illuminated in that living room area from a light. But this is right at the part of the PCA that we're reading. This would be Dylan's POV. She opens the door and all of a sudden she sees a figure in black with a mask walking towards her. But he would cut to the right, walking out that backsliding door through the kitchen. Oh, Nola, when we were trying to figure this house out in real time, it was the most, because we didn't realize 2 floors were ground level for a while. So it was the most confusing thing ever. Okay. So this is, and she's standing in the doorway. Okay, you could see to the left the kitchen. To the right, if you go out straight here, to the left is Xana's room. So Xana and Ethan were in Xana's room. Left up these stairs is where Maddie and Kaylee were. So the killer had to pass Dylan's room multiple times, okay? And this is where a latent shoe print was found, right here. So let me now get back to where we were. Okay. So now we're out of Dylan's room. Again, this is Dylan's room here. And if we're going to go this way, this is the kitchen. There's the back sliding door, which most likely the killer came through, ground floor, but here's what the kitchen looks like. So the killer went both upstairs and around this corner to Xana's room, and this is Dylan's room. So he would have passed multiple times and eventually left out this back sliding door. So let's now make our way upstairs. We believe the killer went upstairs first, but we still don't know. Okay. We have a bathroom here. And here we have Maddie's room. This is where see how small it is? This is where we have both Maddie and Kaylee. There was a single bed that was right here.
Mhm.
Kaylee was found up against this back corner, slumped over. Maddie was laying right here. The sheath was found somewhat underneath her leg. So again, the killer's standing here or even here or here.
And when they say single, from what I could tell based on the mattresses that were removed, it looked to be a full-size bed. Not like a queen. It was really small, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think a lot of people got like confused when they said single. They thought it meant twin, but it wasn't a twin size.
Right. And so she was trapped. Remember earlier when I said she was trapped? She was trapped. Even if he attacked Maddie first, which I believe he did, even if she woke up, she was against the walls, and he was standing here or here. We don't know. But how would she have gotten out? Okay.
Yeah.
So then
according to like Christy, which is Kaylee's mom, like she said that she was like back to the corner, like slumped over. And so not until Chrissy came out and released that information this last year did I really think that she fell asleep in that room. Because remember, my theory was that she did not.
Yeah. Right.
But it makes more sense now, like you said, like the struggle to be able to like get out of bed if you're trapped in the sheets.
The blankets alone, Shay, like it's hell.
Yeah.
And it's up against the wall. So that was Kaylee's room. I'm sorry, that was Maddie's room. Kaylee was in there. Now, Kaylee was in the process of moving out. And so she was only actually there to stay the weekend. She had just gotten a brand new car. She got a new job. So she wasn't supposed to live there anymore. But if we look to the right, the only other thing on this floor was Kaylee's old room, which still had all of her stuff in it. Another sliding door that goes out to a porch out there, but no ground level access. This is where her dog was. Now, we found out some new information in the recent court hearing, but I'm waiting to get into it. But here is Kaylee's room. Her dog, Murphy, was still inside of it, okay? So that's a walkthrough of the house, which it is confusing, but we'll keep referring back to it always, and you'll get a better mental image as we continue. So going back to this affidavit, okay? The combination of Dylan's statements to law enforcement, reviews of forensic downloads, and records from Dylan and Bethany's phone, and a video of a suspect video as described below leads investigators believe the homicides occurred between 4 and 4:25 a.m. Now, again, Xana got DoorDash at 4 a.m. Xana was actively scrolling through TikTok at 4:12 a.m. and they happened between 4 and 4:25. During the processing of the crime scene, investigators found a latent shoe print. Remember, I showed you guys that outside of Dylan's room. This was located during the second processing of the crime scene by the ISP forensic team by first using a presumptive blood test and then amino black, a protein stain that detects the presence of cellular material. The detective shoe print showed a diamond-shaped pattern, similar to the pattern of a Vans type shoe sole, just outside the door of Dylan's bedroom, located on the second floor. This is consistent with Dylan's statement regarding the suspect's path of travel.
As part of the investigation, an extensive search, commonly referred to in law enforcement as a video canvass, was conducted in the area of the King Road residence. This video canvass was to obtain any footage from the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022, in the area of the King Road residence and surrounding neighborhoods in an effort to locate the suspects or suspect vehicles traveling to or leaving from the King Road residence. This video canvass resulted in the collection of numerous surveillance videos in the area from both residential and business addresses. I have reviewed numerous videos that were collected and have had conversations with other MPD officers, ISP detectives, and FBI agents that are similarly reviewing footage that was obtained.
A review of camera footage indicated that a white sedan, hereafter suspect vehicle 1, was observed traveling westbound in the 700 block of Indian Hills Drive in Moscow at approximately 3:26 a.m. and westbound on Steiner Avenue at Idaho State Highway 95 in Moscow at approximately 3:28 a.m. On this video, it appeared suspect vehicle 1 was not displaying a front license plate.
My turn, sorry.
Yeah.
A review of footage, multiple videos obtained from the King Road neighborhood showed multiple sightings of suspect vehicle 1 starting at 3:29 a.m. and ending at 4:20 a.m. These sightings show suspect vehicle 1 makes an initial 3 passes by the 1122 King Road residence and then leave via Walenta Drive. Based off my experience as a patrol officer, this is a residential neighborhood with a very limited number of vehicles that travel in the area during the early morning hours. Upon review of the video, there are only a few cars that enter and exit this area during this time frame.
Sorry.
It's okay. I can keep reading if you want to scroll up.
Okay, go ahead.
Suspect vehicle 1 can be seen entering the area a fourth time at approximately 4:04 a.m. It can be seen driving eastbound on King Road, stopping and turning around in front of 500 Queen Road, number 52, and then driving back westbound on King Road. When suspect vehicle 1 is in front of the King Road residence, it appeared to unsuccessfully attempt to park or turn around in the road. The vehicle then continued to the intersection of Queen Road and Keene Road, where it can be seen completing a 3-point turn and then driving eastbound again down Queen Road. Suspect vehicle 1 is next seen departing the area of the King Road residence at approximately 4:20 a.m. at a high rate of speed. Suspect vehicle 1 is next observed traveling southbound on Walenta Drive. Based on my knowledge of the area and review of camera footage in the neighborhood, that does not show suspect vehicle 1 during that time frame. I believe that suspect vehicle 1 likely exited the neighborhood at Pulos River Drive in Conestoga. Is that right? I can't remember how to pronounce that one. Conestoga Drive. Pulos River Drive is at the southern edge of Moscow and proceeds into Whitman County, Washington. Eventually, the road leads to Pullman, Washington. Pullman, Washington is, let me scroll, approximately 10 miles from Moscow, Idaho. Both Pullman and Moscow are small college towns, and people commonly travel back and forth between them.
So then it says, law enforcement officers provided video footage of suspect vehicle 1 to forensic examiners with the FBI that regularly utilized surveillance footage to identify the year, make, and model of an unknown vehicle that is observed by one or more cameras during the commission of a criminal offense. The forensic examiner has approximately 35 years law enforcement experience with 12 years at the FBI. His specific training includes identifying unique characteristics of vehicles, and he uses a database that gives visual clues of vehicles across states to identify differences between the vehicles.
After reviewing the numerous observations of suspect vehicle 1, the forensic examiner initially believed that suspect vehicle 1 was a 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra. Upon further review, he indicated it could also be a 2011 to 2016 Hyundai Elantra. As a result, investigators have been reviewing information on persons in possession of a vehicle that is a 2011 to 2016 white Hyundai Elantra.
Investigators were given access to video footage on the Washington State University campus located in Pullman, Washington. A review of that video indicated that at approximately 2:44 a.m. on November 13, 2022, a white sedan, which was consistent with the description of the white Elantra, known as suspect vehicle 1, was observed on WSU surveillance cameras traveling north on Southeast Nevada Street at Northeast Stadium Way. At approximately 2:53 a.m., a white sedan, which is consistent with the description of the white Elantra known to be suspect vehicle 1, was observed traveling southeast on Nevada Street in Pullman, Washington, towards SR 270, which connects Pullman, Washington to Moscow, Idaho. This camera footage from Pullman was provided to the same FBI forensic examiner. The forensic examiner identified the vehicle observed in Pullman as being a 2014 to 2016 Hyundai Elantra.
At approximately 5:25 a.m., a white sedan, which was consistent with the description of suspect vehicle 1, was observed on 5 cameras in Pullman, Washington, and on WSU campus cameras. The first camera that recorded the white sedan was located at 1300 Johnson Road in Pullman. The white sedan was observed traveling northbound on Johnson Road. Johnson Road leads directly back to West Polos River Drive in Moscow, which intersects with Canestaga Drive. The white sedan was then observed turning north on Bishop Boulevard and northwest on SR 270. At approximately 5:27 a.m., the white Elantra was observed on cameras traveling northbound on Stadium Way at Nevada Street, Stadium Way at Grimes Way, Stadium Drive at Wilson Road, and Stadium Way at Cougar Way.
So this is a map depiction showing Moscow and Pullman and the path of travel, which will show you like so much has come out, like recreating the drive will show you much better stuff. So on November 25th, MPD asked area law enforcement agencies to be on the lookout for a white Hyundai Elantra in the area. On November 29th at approximately 12:28 a.m., WSU police officer Daniel Tiango queried am I saying that right?
Queried.
Mm-hmm.
Queried. You had it right.
Queried white Elantras registered at WSU. So again, that campus, they're like, all right, well, let me see, because you have to register your vehicle for school. Let me see like what white Elantras pop up. Mm-hmm. So as a result of that query, he located a 2015 white Elantra with a Pennsylvania license plate, XYZ. This vehicle was registered to Bryan Kohberger, hereafter Kohberger, residing at 1630 Northeast Valley Road, apartment 201, Pullman, Washington. So that's approximately 3/4 of a mile from the intersection of Stadium Way and Cougar Way, the last camera that picked up the Elantra.
The same day at approximately 12:58 a.m., WSU officer Curtis Whitman was looking for white Hyundai Elantras and located a 2015 white Hyundai Elantra at 1630 Northeast Valley Road in Pullman in the parking lot. 1630 Northeast Valley Road is an apartment complex that houses WSU students. Officer Whitman also ran the car and it returned to Kohberger with the Washington tag. I reviewed Kohberger's Washington state driver's license information and photograph. This license indicates that Kohberger is a white male with a height of 6 foot and weighs 185 pounds. Additionally, the photograph of Kohberger shows that he has bushy eyebrows. Kohberger's physical description is consistent with the description of the male DM saw inside the King Road residence on November 13th.
Hey, Nav. Further investigation, including a review of Leda County Sheriff's Deputy Corporal Duke's body cam and reports, showed that on August 21st, 2022, Bryan Kohberger was detained as part of a traffic stop that occurred in Moscow, Idaho, by Corporal Duke. At the time, Kohberger, who was the sole occupant, was driving a 2015 Hyundai Elantra with Pennsylvania license plate XYZ, which was set to expire on November 30th, 2022. During the stop, which was recorded via a law enforcement body camera, Kohberger provided his phone number, 8458, hereafter the 8458 phone, as his cellular telephone number. Investigators conducted electronic database queries and learned that the 8458 phone number is a number issued by AT&T.
On October 14, 2022, Bryan Kohberger was detained as part of a traffic stop by a WSU police officer. Upon review of that body cam and report of the stop, Kohberger was the sole occupant and was driving a white 2015 Hyundai Elantra with Pennsylvania plates ABC.
That works.
Yeah, why not?
November 18th, according to Washington State Licensing, Kohberger registered the 2015 white Elantra and later received a license plate XYZ. Prior to this time, the 2015 white Elantra was registered in Pennsylvania, where his parents' house is, which does not require a front license plate to be displayed. This was learned through communications with the Pennsylvania officer who is currently certified in the state of Pennsylvania. Based on my own experience and communication with Washington law enforcement, I know that Idaho and Washington require front and back license plates to be displayed. So again, pause. Don't forget, on that footage, not only did they catch a white Elantra, I laughed, Joneson, even reading it in the messages, like thinking about you going deep like that. But on the footage, it only had one license plate. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Investigators believe that Kohberger is still driving the 2015 white Elantra because his vehicle was captured on December 13, 2022 by a license plate reader in Loma, Colorado. Information provided by a query to a database. Kohberger's Elantra was then queried on December 15, 2022 by law enforcement in Hancock County, Indiana. On December 16, 2022, at approximately 2:26 p.m., surveillance video showed Kohberger's Elantra in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. The sole occupant of the vehicle was a white male whose description was consistent with Kohberger. Kohberger has family in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, learned through a TLO search and locate tool database query. You want to scroll up?
Yep. Based on information provided on the WSU website, Kohberger is currently a PhD student in criminology at Washington State University. Pursuant to records provided by a member of the interview panel for Pullman Police Department, we learned that Bryan Kohberger's past education included undergraduate degrees in psychology and cloud-based forensics. These records also showed that Bryan wrote an essay which he applied for an internship with the Pullman Police Department in the fall of 2022. Kohberger wrote in his essay that he had an interest in assisting rural law enforcement agencies with how to better collect and analyze technological data in public safety operations. Kohberger also posted a Reddit survey, which can be found by an open source internet search. The survey asked for participants to provide information to, quote, understand how emotions and psychological traits influence decision-making when committing a crime.
As part of this investigation, law enforcement obtained search warrants to determine cellular devices that utilize cellular towers in close proximity to the King Road residence on November 13, 2022, between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. After determining that Kohberger was associated to both the 2015 white Elantra and the 8458 phone, investigators reviewed these search warrant returns. A query of the 8458 phone in these returns did not show the 8458 phone utilizing cellular tower resources in close proximity to the King Road residence between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m.
Based on my training, experience, and conversation with law enforcement officers that specialize in the utilization of cellular telephone records as part of the investigations, individuals can either leave their cell phones at a different location before committing a crime or turn their cell phones off prior to going to a location to commit a crime. This is done by subjects in an effort to avoid alerting law enforcement that a cellular device associated with them was in a particular area where a crime is committed. I also know that on numerous occasions, subjects will surveil an area where they intend to commit a crime prior to the date of the crime. Depending on the circumstances, this could be done a few days before or for several months prior to the commission of a crime. During these types of surveillance, it is possible that an individual would not leave their cellular telephone at a separate location or turn it off since they do not plan to commit the offense on that particular night.
On December 23rd, 2022, I applied for and was granted a search warrant for historical phone records between November 12, 2022 at 12 a.m. and November 14th at 12 a.m. for the 8458 phone held by the phone provider AT&T approximately 24 hours preceding and following the times of the homicides. On December 23rd, 2022, pursuant to the search warrant, I received records for the 8458 phone from AT&T. These records indicated that the 8458 phone is subscribed to Bryan Kohberger at an address in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, and the account has been open since June 23rd, 2022. These records also include historical cell site location information, CSLI for short, for the 8458 phone. After reviewing this information, I consulted with an FBI special agent that is certified as a member of the Cellular Analysis Survey Team, which is CAST. Member of the CAST team are certified with the FBI to provide expert testimony in the field of historical CSLI and are required to pass extensive training that includes both written and practical examinations prior to being certified with CAST, as well as the completion of yearly certification requirements. You want me to keep going?
Yeah.
Additionally, the FBI CAST SA that I consulted with has over 15 years of federal law enforcement experience, which includes 6 years with the FBI. From information provided by CAST, I was able to determine estimated locations for the 8458 phone from November 12, 2022 to November 13, 2022, the time period authorized by the court.
So on November 13th at approximately 2:42 a.m., the 8458 phone, Kohberger's phone, guys, was utilizing cellular resources that provide coverage to 1630 Northeast Valley Road, apartment G201, Pullman, Washington, hereafter the Kohberger residence. At approximately 2:47 a.m., the 8458 phone utilized cellular resources that provide coverage southeast of the Kohberger residence, consistent with the 8458 phone leaving the Kohberger residence and traveling south through Pullman, Washington. This is consistent with the movement of the white Elantra. At approximately 2:47 a.m., the 8458 phone stops reporting to the network, which is consistent with either the phone being in an area without cellular coverage, the connection to the network is disabled, such as putting the phone in airplane mode, or the phone is turned off. The 8458 phone does not report to the network again until approximately 4:48 a.m., at which time it utilized cellular resources that provide coverage to Idaho State Highway 95 south of Moscow, Idaho, near Blaine, Idaho. Between 4:50 a.m. and 5:26 a.m., the phone utilizes cellular resources that are consistent with the 8458 phone traveling south on Idaho State 95 to Genesee, Idaho, then traveling west towards Unionton, Idaho, and then back into Pullman, Washington. At approximately 5:30 a.m., the 8458 phone is utilizing resources that provide coverage to Pullman, Washington, and consistent with the phone traveling back to the Kohberger residence. The 8458's phone movements are consistent with the movements of the white Elantra that is observed traveling north on Stadium Drive at approximately 5:27 a.m. Based on a review of the 8458's phone estimated locations and travel, the 8458 phone's travel is consistent with that of the white Elantra. Now again, pause real quick. Since then, stop. Oh my god. Since then, we have learned what the alibi was for the defense, and that was Kohberger is not denying being out driving, but it was not at the house at the time of the murders, and he likes to stargaze, and there's no witnesses that can place him at another location at the time of the murders. He can't tell you where exactly he was, when exactly he was, prove exactly where he was, but he likes to go for nighttime drives and stargaze.
Mm-hmm. Further review indicated that the 8458 phone utilized cellular resources on November 13, 2022 that are consistent with the 8458 phone leaving the area of the Kohberger residence at approximately 9 a.m. and traveling to Moscow, Idaho. Specifically, the 8458 phone utilized resources that would provide coverage to the King Road residence between 9:12 a.m. and 9:21 a.m. The 8458 phone next utilized resources that are consistent with the 8458 phone traveling back to the area of the Kohberger residence and arriving to the area at approximately 9:32 a.m. Below is a depiction, not to scale, of the possible route taken based off the cellular site locations.
And then we have, which again will play much better. Like so much has happened since this PCA. Will show you much better routes and stuff. So investigators found that the 8458, and we're almost done with this. Investigators found that the 8458 phone did connect to a cell phone tower that provides service to Moscow on November 14th, the next day. But investigators do not believe the 8458 phone was in Moscow on that date. The 8458 phone has not connected to any towers that provide service to Moscow since that date.
Based on my training, experience, and the facts of the investigation thus far, I believe that Kohberger, the user of the 8458 phone, was likely the driver of the white Elantra that is observed departing Pullman, Washington, and that this vehicle is likely suspect vehicle 1. Additionally, the route of travel of the 8458 phone during the early morning hours of November 13, 2022, and the lack of the 8458 phone reporting to AT&T between 2:47 a.m. and 4:48 a.m. is consistent with Kohberger attempting to conceal his location during the quadruple homicide that occurred at the King Road residence.
On December 23rd, 2022, I was granted a search warrant for Kohberger's historical CSLI from June 23rd, 2022 to current prospective location information and a pen register trap and trace on the 8458 phone to aid in efforts to determine if Kohberger stalked any of the victims in this case prior to the offense, conducted surveillance on the King Road residence, was in contact with any of the victims or associates before or after the alleged offense, any locations that may contain evidence of the murders that occurred on November 13th, the location of the white Elantra registered to Kohberger, as well as the location of Kohberger.
On December 23rd, 2022, pursuant to that search warrant, I received historical records for the 8458 phone from AT&T from the time the account was opened in June 2022. After consulting with CAST SA, I was able to determine estimated locations for the 8458 phone from June 2022 to present, the time period authorized by the court. The records for the 8458 phone show the 8458 phone utilizing cellular resources that provide coverage to the area of 1122 King Road on at least 12 occasions prior to November 13, 2022. All of these occasions, except for one, occurred in the late evening and early morning hours of their respective days.
One of these occasions, on August 21st, 2022, the 8458 phone utilized cellular resources providing coverage to the King Road residents from approximately 10:34 to 11:35 p.m. At approximately 11:37 p.m., Kohberger was stopped by Leda County Sheriff's Deputy Corporal Duke, as mentioned above. The 8458 phone was utilizing cellular resources consistent with the location on the traffic stop during this time, Farm Road and Pullman Highway.
Further analysis of the cellular data provided showed the 8458 phone utilized cellular resources on November 13, 2022, consistent with the phone traveling from Pullman, Washington to Lewiston, Idaho via US Highway 195. At approximately 12:36 p.m., the 8458 phone utilized cellular resources that would provide coverage to Kate's Cup of Joe coffee stand located at 810 Court Drive, Clarkston, Washington. Surveillance footage from the U.S. Chef's store located at 820 Port Drive, Clarkston, Washington, and adjacent to Kate's Cup of Joe showed a white Elantra consistent with suspect vehicle 1 drive past Kate's Cup of Joe at a time consistent with the cellular data from the 8458 phone.
At approximately 12:46 p.m., the 8458 phone then utilized cellular data in the area of Albertson Grocery Store at 400 Bridge Street in Clarkston, Washington. Surveillance footage obtained from the Albertson showed Kohberger exit that white Elantra, consistent with suspect vehicle 1, at approximately 12:49 p.m. Interior surveillance cameras showed Kohberger walk through the store, purchase an unknown item at the checkout, and then leave at approximately 1:04 p.m. Kohberger's possible path of travel is depicted below, not to scale. So last page.
Still want to know what he bought.
I know.
So curious. Additional analysis of records from the 8458 phone indicated that between approximately 5:32 p.m. and 5:36 p.m., the 8458 phone utilized resources that provide coverage to Johnson, Idaho. The 8458 phone then stops reporting to the network from approximately 5:36 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. That is consistent with the 8458 phone being in the area that the 8458 phone traveled in the hours immediately following the suspected time the homicides occurred.
On December 27, 2022, Pennsylvania agents recovered the trash from Kohberger's family's residence located in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. That evidence was sent to the Idaho State Lab for testing. On December 28, 2022, the Idaho State Lab reported that a DNA profile obtained from the trash and the DNA profile obtained from the sheath identified a male as not being excluded as the biological father of suspect profile. At least 99.9998% of the male population would be expected to be excluded from the possibility of being the suspect's biological father.
Based on the above information, I am requesting an arrest warrant to be issued for Bryan C. Kohberger, date of birth 11/21/1994, for burglary at 1122 King Street in Moscow, Idaho, and 4 counts of murder in the first degree for the murders of Madison Mogen, Kaylee Goncalves, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. I declare under penalty of perjury pursuant to the law of the state of Idaho that the foregoing is true and correct. Dated 12/29/2022. The affiant is Brett Payne.
Okay. So,
It's been a while. That's the big one.
all right. I'm now going to scroll through photos while we have a discussion. And yes, I'm going to jump to what happened in this latest hearing, but it shouldn't mess you guys up if you're new because it's just more information. Honestly, it's going to help you. But we are going to end up going back like through everything. So don't worry. Like I said, this is not a one night thing. This is going to be every week. And so we're going to focus on the warrants for Bryan. We're going to go through the path of travel. We're going to go through everything. So don't worry. But I have to now catch up and discuss what we found out since. But real quickly, again, just to give you a quick overview of this house, okay? This is what it looks like from the front. 3 floors. First floor, second floor, third floor. Second floor is also a ground floor because the extension on the back where that door is, it's on a slant. So it's the second floor from this angle, but from the back, it's also ground floor. Xana and Ethan were on the second floor, this room to the right. Dylan was on this floor, also surviving roommate Dylan. Bethany was alone on the first floor. As far as we know, killer never went to the first floor. And then we had Maddie and Kaylee on this top third floor that were deceased. You go in, the ground floor, not too relevant as we know it because he never made his way, but this is where one of the surviving roommates was, ground floor. You go up to these stairs. We're in this common area right now. This would have been the killer's path of travel. Out here through this, around the corner, is the kitchen where there's sliding back doors outside. He could have came in through the back ground floor, made his way in. Either way, we know that he would have had to go this way. And let me go here. This straight ahead, Xana's bedroom. This is where Xana and Ethan were found. To the left is a bathroom. So the killer would have come through here. Well, that's the latent shoe print. Right here, Dylan's room. When she opened it, cracked it open, this is where the killer would be. He made his way outside. Again, those are the backsliding doors. This is the kitchen. But he would have gone upstairs, which again, this killer goes into a house filled with an unknown amount of people. The risk is massive, okay? And this is Maddie's room where both Kaylee and Maddie were at the time that they were killed. But over in Kaylee's old bedroom, which again had all of her stuff still in it, was Kaylee's dog, Murphy, okay? Now here's the thing. We finally got some answers at this most recent court hearing. And
Boy, did we ever.
If you have questions, just please ask as we go. Golden Doodle, right? It was a Golden Doodle?
Yeah, Murphy.
Murphy's a Golden Doodle. We knew this dog was in Kaylee's room, but there were so many questions. We heard this dog was in a crate. The doors were shut. That wasn't the case. We just found out this dog was in this room right here when they came in. Authorities came in the next day, sitting here with no blood on him, no tracks of blood anywhere. And again, the victims, his owner, is in this room right here. Their door was open. Both rooms where the murders occurs, doors were open, which now this throws off everything, even Shay with News Nation, with what we heard about Xana and Ethan's room. I'm so confused. Both of their rooms were open. Their doors were open.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So this dog never made it was a pup. It was 1 year old. Okay?
Harley, it was mentioned in the hearing. Yeah, that at the third floor bedrooms, all the doors were open, and Murphy did not have a spot of blood on him or a trail upstairs at all.
Not just the third floor. Shay. Anne said Both the rooms with the victims, doors were open.
Right.
That's why I said even downstairs, what do you mean? The narrative we heard was the body up against the door, pushed open, remember?
My question would be is this is my only thing. It's like I understand the News Nation piece where we were told that Santa's door was closed, that there was allegedly they called, friend Hunter to come over to get in there. Is it possible that maybe she's quoting by the time the police got there, all the doors were open? I don't know. I still have
That's
questions there.
true. That's true. And that's why I love having these discussions. And hi, King Scarlet. King Scarlet says, you got to watch for her wording. When they came in, it doesn't mean that the doors were open the entire time because the students couldn't have opened. That's correct. So maybe Maddie and Kaylee's door up here on the third floor was open because, as far as we know, nobody went up there. But the second floor, Xana and Ethan's room, very well may have been opened after Hunter went in there.
Right.
Okay. So, and it's so good to see you. Sorry, I'm
I
just so excited.
know. I haven't seen her in forever.
So let me kind of go through a visual for you guys while we have the discussion. Again, here are all of the victims and the two surviving roommates. From left to right, we have Dylan. Dylan's going to be a major player in this. Well, they all are, but you're going to hear Dylan's name more than Bethany's. Dylan to the left. To the right of her is Kaylee. On top of Kaylee is Maddie, Ethan, Xana, and then Bethany to the far right. Okay.
And this is the famous photo that's posted on Kaylee's Instagram that they took the day before the
The
murders.
day before the murders. Okay. So here's that footage from the truck stop. Hours before the murders, you see Maddie and Kaylee ordering carbonara. They're drinking. You could even hear them. This was all found out. This was actually found from Kaylee's sister doing her own sleuthing. But there's a live food truck stream that they're spotted on. Hey, Jennifer. So here is that neighbor's camera that ends up catching the audio of the murders. And it catches a still shot of, well, I don't know. We saw a still shot. I don't know what exactly it caught on it. But something we learned in this also, Shay, is that is the shittiest quality of footage because there is a neighbor, their footage caught a much clearer shot of Kohberger's vehicle.
Yes, I actually texted you. I went to, because I was listening to it, I got the address and I texted it to you, the map of how far it was and the
Okay.
home of where they say they got the clearest um ver- the clearest version to detect the vehicle is how they said it, I believe.
So
And it,
here's, go ahead.
sorry, I think it was 1125 Ridge Road. It's near Walenta.
So what was interesting in this recent court hearing and paying attention to Anne's wording, okay? She had said essentially, and I'm paraphrasing here, Kohberger's vehicle was spotted on one good quality camera, but you cannot make out that it's his vehicle on all the other cameras. But they essentially stitched it all together. So she's inadvertently admitting, yes, that is my client's vehicle on that one footage. But you can't prove that's his vehicle. You guys can't even make out what kind of vehicle it is based on that footage, but you stitched it all together. But that tells me that, oh, you could prove it's at least Kohberger's on that good one.
That's
It
the
was
way I
really
took it.
interesting. Yeah, it was really interesting to me.
I also found it really interesting in the hearing when they were talking about so basically this hearing that they had is to determine if they're going to have a Franks hearing. So the defense has since filed a slew of motions where they're wanting to attack the search warrant, and it goes piece by piece by from like AT&T to Amazon to IGG And this was just like the brink of that conversation for the court to decide if they're going to hold a Franks hearing. And just little nuggets kept coming out. And I found it interesting that they were so set on wanting to throw out the IgG, and it's like the most prominent evidence is his DNA is on the knife sheath.
So the problem, and I'm going to answer your question, Diana, what the big issue is right now in court, DNA was left on that sheath, on the button snap of that sheath that was found underneath Maddie. They used IgG, and they were able to basically use like Ancestry.com, 23andMe, all of those. Hey, tell me who I'm related to. Tell me my history. A lot of those sites, you can opt out of law enforcement using your DNA to tie you or someone in your bloodline to a crime, okay? Here's the issue. It seems like the FBI may have gone in through the back door and still accessed DNA and used it to get a familial match. They then used that to it's still unclear the process because it's deleted. They argued that's not what that's not what they're admitting into evidence for trial. We're not even using that. But
It's
defense, yes, defense is going hard focusing on this. And there was an entire argument that it violates my client's amendment, his right to privacy. But here's the thing. The judge, and I love the judge with this, the judge was like, did your client submit his DNA to any of these sites? No. Your client does not, okay, DNA left at the crime scene does not have the right to privacy. Whatever, and yet you're also arguing, though, that my client was not at the crime scene. So you can't have it both ways. You can't argue that, oh, well, my client was not at this house at the time of the murders, but then also argue his privacy was violated essentially by using the DNA found at the crime scene to get a match. And so all I know is, I've said this from the beginning, my theory, Kohberger is the guy, but I was nervous they may have cut corners to get there. And that's exactly what it seems like is playing out right now, Shay. They may have cut corners to get there, but that's the FBI, okay? The FBI could have done that.
But what they're using is they're saying, look, it's technically not against the law because where they went in through the back door, all they did was break terms of service. That's not against the law. And there's disclaimers in there that kind of open that up for law enforcement to. It is scary. Whichever way you feel about this, there is no right of privacy at this point. And what we know is that Bryan wasn't the one to submit his DNA. It was most likely a relative. So part of this argument becomes a little moot in point when she's not arguing based on his privacy. It's more so like, would he slap the hands of the FBI for a TOS violation? I don't know.
Oh, Jamie. And so it's still unclear, well, what match did it make? Was it Bryan Kohberger's twice removed aunt? We still don't know, because their prosecution's like, we're not using this. We're not submitting this during trial, so we don't need to argue this. But either way, their argument in court was everybody who submits DNA to these sites is looking to give their DNA to the public, like help match my family to the, like, in the grand scheme of things, you're connecting it to other people in the public, And so here's the other thing. So they ended up monitoring Kohberger's family's house, the parents' house in Pennsylvania, what they did was, and I thought this was an interesting argument, okay? They waited until the trash was put out. And the FBI, yes, the DNA is Nunya, but not using that IgG isn't. That's the thing. They're going for the tip and everything, but that's Anne's argument, is that the entire PCA is a Fox investigation, that they used this IgG and then they built all of this fluff around. The PCA is all fluff, making it appear that they did this investigation when they didn't. That's why she's focusing on that. But here's what they did. They waited until the trash was put out. And then the FBI advised the trash company, when you pick up this trash on your normal route, instead of bringing it to the dump, bring it to us. Which, here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, your trash, once it's set out, is not private property. It is free to take. I forgot what it's referred to as, but there's
It's
a specific,
abandoned property, and there's so much case law around it. Like, it's
yeah.
hard to wiggle with.
And so Ann Taylor was putting up a major argument of how they took that trash, and through that trash, guys, they made a DNA match with Kohberger's father, that basically they cannot exclude this DNA being a match 99.9998%, like it can't exclude him. So essentially it matched his dad to being the father of the DNA source. Anne argued in this recent court hearing like that it was completely inappropriate for the FBI to make that deal, and the judge was like, was the trash put out? If it was on the side of the house, no. But if the trash was put out in the designated spot of where it's usually put out, and it was the normal trash route, they documented the trash being there on camera before they took it, like, this is where it is, this is where it's set. And once they pick that trash up, it's not your property. The same way that they could offer you a water in the interrogation room, and then you throw that water bottle out. They pick that water bottle up, they could get the DNA from it. It's not your property anymore, okay? That's what they did, but that was a decent argument, and this has been an argument from the beginning, this DNA, okay?
Because there's, according to what we know so far, there's no other links of Bryan Kohberger to these people that we're all aware of, other than his DNA being on that knife sheath. But I'm sorry, that's the murder. Like, what we know so far, that is the murder weapon.
And could you want to real quickly explain for Diana's question earlier? I think she asked, who called 911? And oh crap, what was the second part I said I would answer? It was who called 911? Who was there and who called 911, I believe? Let me go back to find it.
So I'm going to go collective
Oh, here it is.
understanding. Yeah, collective understanding from the Goncalves family, and I think through some of Chapin's fraternity brothers, has been that Dylan Mortensen, Bethany Funk, they called over Hunter, who is a best friend of Ethan, that they could not wake him up. They needed help. He comes over there, and he's able to access the door. He runs out of the house. The One of the girls starts having a like panic attack, or per se, and faints, and he uses one of their phones to call 911. So the unconscious person possibly was one of the surviving roommates. And then I believe at the same time, Hunter's triplet siblings were headed over as well, Maisie and Hunter. Sorry, Ethan's triplet siblings. Sorry, there's two Hunters. One is a triplet and one is a best friend. I hope that helps explain it.
I can't find your question, Turtle Dove. Hey, Sydney. And hold on, Sarah Benham. So here's a big point of controversy, at least when we were covering it in real time. Friends were summoned to the residence before 911 was called. That's a big big issue as far as the public following this case. Friends were summoned. Now, again, they're right all up next to each other as far as the apartments and housing. The word summoned, does that mean call? Does that mean text? Does that mean yodel hee hoo yo? You know, we don't know. But friends did come and discover the victims, or at least some of the victims, and a phone call was made to 911 from a surviving roommate's phone, but unclear who made the call. We could tell you who we heard made the call, but I'm not going to state it as fact, and that is Ethan's friend, Hunter.
Yeah, I don't think it's been released because there's probably details in there that they need to hold for trial, is my understanding. But do you want me to screen record London's video? Do you want to show that
Yeah,
or?
absolutely. And Turtle Dove, no, we've heard a lot of speculation, a lot of things put out there, but I'm trying to do our best to focus on what we know for certain. And what we know for certain currently is that there really is no connection with Bryan and any of the victims, other than he did ping near that house 12 times prior, like we read in the PCA. So here's one of the big issues that we found out in this recent court hearing. Dylan, that surviving roommate, her statements Ann Taylor is going ham on. She's arguing that essentially all of the warrants should be thrown out if you can argue what the warrants are based on. Is bullshit. Dylan made numerous, and this is Ann's argument, numerous inconsistent statements. We found out that Dylan claimed that she heard, and she didn't use names, but if you're familiar enough with the case, you'll know who she's talking about, what she perceived to be Kaylee playing with the dog upstairs. Now, we know the murder was caught on audio, and you do hear Murphy barking, okay? She probably heard noises and the dog barking and assumed it was Kaylee playing with the dog, but really the dog was reacting to what was going on, and the noises were the act itself. She claimed she heard what she believed Kaylee to go downstairs, upstairs, and back downstairs. Now, Anne said, we know that that's not possible because the victim never left the bed. She died in the bed. It most likely was Kohberger. But at the time, Dylan is trying to, your brain is going to logically put together what you think you hear. And so she probably assumed the person coming down, up, down was Kaylee. Well, we now know that's not the case. Or maybe it could have been Xana. Okay. Right. Exactly, Harlot. I don't know, but Anne is going hard because Dylan's statements originally said she believed it was Kaylee, which I don't think that will be difficult once she's on the stand and seeing how questioning goes for witnesses. I could absolutely see the prosecutor saying, did you hear someone come down the stairs, go back up, and come back down again? Good night, Nav. Have a great night. Yes. Did you originally believe that to be Kaylee based on believing that she was playing with the dog? Yes. Do you now know that that's not the case? Yes. Because we've seen it with Harley Hunt. We've seen it many times before. But here's the issue. Dylan backtracked after, oh no, where'd she go? Oh, she's screen recording. Dylan ended up backtracking. And she explained how she was drinking. And she didn't, She wasn't essentially able to determine what really happened and what was a dream. Exactly, boss lady. Charlotte. Boom. See, when I heard this about Dylan, I'll be honest, I'm not thinking it's too far crazy. Dylan's a girl. I think that, one, she was under the influence. Two, your brain, even in a situation like that, is going to try to register what it's perceiving. Exactly, King Scarlet. I have issue with other things, but I'm just being open. With the inconsistent statements, like I said, it makes sense to me that she explained she believed it was Kaylee who came down, up, and down. If she wouldn't have said Kaylee versus I heard someone come down, up, down, that it wouldn't be an issue, right? Because that aligns with Bryan or the killer. It's the fact that she put Kaylee's name there. But that makes sense because she lived in the house. Do you know how many times they heard going up, down, it passes her room? That's not unusual. So her brain probably registered what she believed was happening. No, her testimony won't be useless. It's just Anne focusing on trying to diminish her credibility, get her statements thrown out. It's her job to do that. But to say I can't determine if I was dreaming or not, that I take a little bit of issue. Like I don't really align with that versus I was under the influence and trauma, shock, confusion. I really can't even register what fucking happened. I could believe that more than what was a dream versus what wasn't a dream, if that makes sense. Right, Jennifer. Kimberly, interesting. But that's because you're used to it, Truth Exposed. But she did hear what she did hear what she perceived to be crying coming from Xana's room. So she did hear peeps. Now, what else we found out? Even though we kind of knew this, Dylan was texting at the time the murders occurred, which we knew from the PCA most likely was the case because it says Dylan and Bethany's phone data at the time kind of corroborates. Well, it says the prosecution came back with Dylan's statements have remained the same from the beginning, even the same from when it was happening. Well, what does that mean? Not only was she actively texting, but she was detailing what she was hearing or experiencing. Right, that was the exactly, Harlot. Exactly. I'm very interested in that. What was texted? What are in those messages? I totally could see her messaging the victims and being like, what's going on? Are you okay? Who's in the house? Bethany would have been the only one who answered because she's the only other survivor. And I could absolutely see the messaging saying, dude, I just saw someone, I don't know, I heard noises upset, like, what's going on? I'm talking to them about Dylan now and how she was even messaging about what she was hearing and experiencing.
It creeps me out.
What do you think?
I think there's a lot more details in there than what we thought, you know? I mean, we heard that that the roommates were called. That came from some Reddit stuff from Chapin's family. We've heard that from the Goncalves family. But now I'm wondering what other details were in there. It seemed like there was a lot more loaded in there.
Okay, so I see a couple of you having this feedback, and it just kind of reminds me of like back when we did this coverage. I understand everyone's concern as far as what do you mean there wasn't any screaming, there wasn't. Okay, just bear with me for a second and listen with an open mind.
It was quick.
We're talking about a K-bar knife. It, as the coroner states, these were not slashes or stabs. These were not stabs. They were slashes and gouges. Okay. One wound does serious damage. Okay. With that being said, let's start upstairs with Kaylee and Maddie. We believe they were the first of the victims. They would have been asleep. The first attack, I do not expect to hear much, and I believe Maddie was the first. Now let's move on to Kaylee. Kaylee was right next to Maddie when the attack was happening. We know from her family she was up in that back corner slumped over. I do believe have you not just even woken up from a dead nap and you don't know what year it is? She was under the influence. They both were under the influence. I believe she woke up from the attack itself on Maddie, which I believe was very quick. But with Kaylee, she would have been registering what happened. She would have been trapped between Maddie, who is actively being attacked, and the wall. And those noises that Dylan heard to be the dog and Kaylee playing, I believe the dog would have been freaking out at this point. But I believe the thumps was Kaylee probably hitting up against the wall as she was trying to get up, which ultimately she was found in that corner. But that would align to me with banging up against the wall from just trying to make movement real quick. Not even so much screams, okay? Because it would have been fast. Now let's move down to Xana and Ethan. Xana was most likely awake. Someone said, in what was a male's voice, what Dylan believed to have been, I'm sorry, not in a male's voice. There's someone here. We don't know if that was said. We don't know who said it or who said what. But what we do know is that there were cries heard from Xana. Ethan, I believe, was sleeping. I understand the lack of screams, but it was very, very quick, and I feel like we should reserve our judgment until we have all that information. Like, let's not have our mind made up about it. And okay, here, yeah, I could play my butts interview. Now the 911 call not being made, totally understand that. A lot of us have issues because it appears like Dylan and Bethany may have locked themselves in their room and did not come out until summoning other friends to come and look. Probably because they knew something was terribly wrong, okay? Oh, I don't know about live coverage because I work, Jessica, so I'm not home all day, every day for 3 months, but I'll be doing nightly recaps. You bet your bottom dollar. Like, This was the first interview. This was the first one, I believe, right?
Yeah, that's the first one. The second one she did was on Ashley
Banfield,
Banfield's, and that has been taken down. The only other place I could find that clip of that was over at Watsy Obsession.
Okay.
But I did do a screen recording of London's. I had to upload it to my YouTube because it was too long to send. Sorry.
Exactly, Nanya. Exactly. Because I have issues with that too. But I just want to be so careful because I've seen it go so crazy and deep that I try to be very careful with like even expressing a concern now with this case. But also like this is the medical, this is the coroner. This is the coroner, okay? And this is the first interview she did, and you guys could hear for yourself what she said.
Kathy, with a C, Mabbutt, Mabbutt.
And I'm going to ask you, how long have you been doing this for?
I've been doing it for 16 years, and I just got reelected for another 4.
So what is it that, or I guess, when did you get the call on Sunday?
I got the call just a few minutes after noon that there were 4 homicides, but I didn't go to the scene because of law enforcement doing their investigation first.
Thank you, Wednesday's Child, for a month. By the way, I freaking love this channel. Thank you so much. Now, here's another issue. What Kathy said didn't end up all being accurate either. So I understand the cause for concern. I have that concern also. Things were portrayed a certain way and they ended up not all being this way. One of the things Kathy is going to say in this interview is all 4 victims were asleep in their beds. And that's not the case as we know it to be true.
So I didn't actually go to the scene until about 5 or 5:30.
Can you walk us through, like, for our viewers, kind of the process between when police show up and then you guys getting the bodies and doing your examinations?
Sure. Well, law enforcement goes through and looks for any evidence, takes videos and pictures of everything in there, and they'll start talking with people. So I don't really need to be there for that. They can't move the bodies. I mean, the bodies have to stay as they were until the coroner gets there. So that's what my job is, to look at the bodies.
As a coroner, do you guys do the autopsies and all that?
No, we some do if they're an actual medical examiner, but we have forensic pathologists and we contract with Spokane to do that.
So in your experience, what is it that you saw when you showed up?
Well, there was a lot of blood. It was a very sad scene with 4 murdered college students.
You're ruling all 4 deaths homicides?
Yes.
And can you give us a manner of death? Yeah.
I believe that the press release was that they were from a sharp object. So
stabbings.
Yeah, I will know more after the autopsies tomorrow.
Now, we now know hindsight because she would further comment on it. I think she wouldn't even rule it more stabbings because these were gashes that she said, like slashes, like this was serious damage. Do you want to explain the type of, I'll show you guys the K-bar knife, but do you want to explain what kind of knife that is, Shay?
I mean, the K-bar knife was created for, I believe, the Marine Corps, and its duty is sharp, slash, and kill. I mean, it is a combat knife, to say the least. I believe it's 13 inches long.
13 inches long.
Yeah, I know. If not, Wolfie or Truth Exposed will gladly correct me on that one.
No, it's
But
13 inches long.
yeah, it is a very, very large knife, and I personally probably would see that more like, yeah, hunting. I mean, my ex-husband has one. He was in the Marine Corps. I'm familiar with him. He actually would wrap like duct tape and stuff around the hand guard areas.
Thank you so much, Bree, for that membership. Please make sure you thank Bree if you got that. From what I'm understanding about this type of knife, and I don't know how to say it in a sensitive way, but the way that this knife is designed is to inflict maximum damage and to cause bleeding out in a fast amount of time. Okay, so this is a serious knife.
Did you see Truth's?
No, hold on.
Yeah, she was able to get a little bit more.
Thank you. So it's 11.8 inches long. The sheath is 13 inches. The blade 7.8 inches. Then the handle. Hey, squirrel. All right. No, I think he saw Dylan, but that's my theory. There are people that highly disagree with me. I believe he saw Dylan.
You do?
You know I do. How many times have we argued this?
I just try to like put out in my mind what I don't agree with you on.
I basically don't even register when I don't agree with you. Oh, I absolutely think he saw Dylan. We'll finish my butt and then we'll go through it.
Kiss my butt. Sorry.
And do you believe this could be like a murder suicide or?
No, there are 4 homicides.
4 homicides. Okay. And when it comes to doing the investigation post autopsy, that falls on you, correct?
Yes, it's my job to determine the manner and mechanism of death.
And then I know with toxicology results, there can often be, in Washington, a delay. So do you have any idea how long it could take, if those were relevant, to get any type of results back on that?
Well, the toxicology reports, right, they usually take 4 to 6 weeks, sometimes longer. But they might, I don't think they're going to be relevant in the actual manner or cause of death.
And do we know how long between the time of death and when police found them, approximately?
No, I don't know for sure.
Do we have like any, like, could it have been hours? Could it have been a day? Was it maybe close? Like, is there any sort of like time frame there?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, gotcha.
And you said the scene was really difficult. I mean, is this something you've had to deal with before in Moscow?
Since I've been coroner, there have been at least 2 other multiple homicide scenes that I've been involved in. So.
Would you say this is probably the most gruesome?
Oh, it's hard to just single it out. It's the only one I've been to where there have been 4 people at one scene. There have been the other ones have had multiple scenes.
And was anybody else injured, like any non-deceased people?
Not that I'm aware of, but I wouldn't necessarily be notified either.
Okay. I didn't know if that was like because the injuries could be similar that matter to you.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Were the deceased all in close proximity to each other, or were they in different rooms?
I don't know that I can discuss that.
That was gonna be my next question too. So I think, yeah.
Will we be able to get a copy of your report once it's concluded? I'm sure it'll be.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, just call.
Yes.
Thank you.
Do you know what the time frame for that would be?
It just depends on how relevant the toxicology report is, but
Oh, okay.
So-
Okay, so it was like the 4 to 6 weeks.
it could
Okay.
be. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So, and thank you, Lady F&T. Thank you all, but especially you, MJ, for helping me get through a difficult time, a difficult month. Well, you already know, I'm so sorry that it's a difficult month, but we adore you here, Lady F&T, and so I'm glad that you're hanging out with us, and I hope that helps distract you.
Yes.
Okay. So people are like, okay. It's so hard for me. So let me explain to you why I think he saw Dylan. This killer, okay, allegedly Kohberger, goes into a house that he genuinely doesn't know. He shouldn't know exactly how many people are in there. If he was stalking it even moments before he went in, DoorDash just came, okay, a DoorDash driver, and dropped off Xana's food. I think when he went in, I'm going back to this, okay. Living room, okay. I think he went upstairs first, okay? This aligns with Dylan. You have to remember, Dylan, who is, her bedroom is right here, okay? He would have had to pass her room multiple times. So we know that she came and opened that door and looked out 3 times. So there was noise, okay? Up, down, and I don't know if Xana was awake. That was part of my working theory, is Xana may have crossed paths with him, said there's someone here, started to run back to her room. He attacked her, and then Ethan. Just a working theory. My point is, when your adrenaline is pumping, and I believe his adrenaline would be pumping.
The way you say that, sorry.
Well, because I'm getting serious now. I'm really like, try to remember a time in your life where your adrenaline was severely pumping.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot perceive time the same way.
Okay.
Right? Have you ever been in a situation where it's like, that was an hour? I swear this has been 5 minutes, like a car accident or something. You're like, when your adrenaline is pumping like that, you don't perceive time the same way. And I believe his fucking adrenaline would be pumping at any given moment. He could be not only caught, but there were multiple people in this house. He would have killed Maddie and Kaylee upstairs, came down these stairs, again, past Dylan's room, went around this way, and in here, Xana and Ethan. There might have been a struggle when it came to Xana or Ethan. Xana was on the floor, okay? We don't know if anything was knocked over. We know that Dylan heard cries. We know the neighboring camera caught Murphy is barking nonstop. Keep that in mind. Murphy is barking, 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 barking. He barked even after the killer left.
Mm-hmm.
He's crying, barking. Was the intention to kill one? Was the intention to kill 2? But let's even theorize it was only 1 or 2. But he may have crossed paths with Xana, who just got her DoorDash. Was she walking this way to go throw the trash out, and he was coming down from killing, and they crossed paths? So now imagine, or let's hypothesize, like theorize, right? He just had to do 2 more killings that he wasn't planning on it. Now, would he have been able to perceive how much time has passed? Would he have been able to have enough energy, which, yes, maybe with adrenaline pumping, but he just committed 4 murders, okay? The dog is barking. Noise is being made. Xana was crying. Now on his way out, I cannot believe that this door, because this is what he would have seen, okay? He has to go to the right, but you're telling me this door being open and the house overall would have been dark. I'm going to assume that Dylan had some type of light source, a TV, a fucking nightlight, anything, to where when she opened this crack in the door, it would have illuminated. Damn it, I'm trying to get that original. Hold on. It would have illuminated from this door even being cracked open, meaning it would have drawn his eye there. Why can't?
It's not letting you do the nighttime one.
Yeah, I'm trying to get the nighttime one, and it's screwing me up. Let me just do this because I can't. Okay. Here we go. So this is what it would have looked like when Dylan opened that door. And she sees this figure-clad walking towards her. I believe it is unlikely that she wouldn't have had any source of light illuminating to where it would have caught Bryan's or the killer's eye walking towards her. I think at that point, he most likely did not know how much time passed. Also, your senses dull, right? When your adrenaline is pumping like that. How loud was it? The dog is barking nonstop still, so he hears that noise. But how loud was it? And so I think he did see her with that door open, but he didn't know, are the cops already on the way? We have someone who's awake now. Are the cops already on the way? And I think he made the decision to just leave, to walk right out. And she sat there questioning. We don't know how dark it was, Monica, but we know it was in the middle of the night, and the common areas, which is right outside this door, the living room and the kitchen, would most likely be shut down.
I think with the way he was traveling, like according to the PCA, I also think he was kind of, because the police station is nearby. I think he was seeing too if there was a lot of activity, around the area. I think he had a time frame where he knew he had to be out of there.
Well, and here's the other part. We know he goes back to the house the next day. Okay? He does a drive-by. I believe it's because he saw Dylan. He didn't know it was Dylan, but he saw that person, and he fully anticipated cops. And yet he's in the area. These alerts go off on the students' phones. He's probably sitting at his apartment, waiting for it to go off on his phone, waiting for an alert, waiting for possibly the cops to come right to his door. He doesn't know what they saw. And nothing happens. No alert. Nothing on the news. No mention yet about these homicides. And he knows, girl, freaking, like, someone saw me. And so curiosity took over. And he did a drive-by. We know he did. He drove by that house just to see. And guess what? No cops, no nothing, because 911 wasn't even called yet. 911 wasn't even called yet by the time he was doing his drive-by the next day. Now, a lot of people disagree with me. A lot of people think he just went straight out. He didn't even see her. I did. I do. But Dylan said that she stood in a frozen shock phase when she saw him, which I'm going to give her some room here, even though I don't like it. But if she was under the influence and she got up three times is a lot of times to get up out of bed and check. That tells me there is noises that was unusual enough for you to go and look what the fuck's going on. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's what they're alleging in trial, was that she was under the influence.
Yes. But I don't know
Or
what
not trial
I
here.
dreamt. I don't know if I dreamt it or saw it. I struggle with that, Shay. I would have preferred, in shock. My brain is like flashing things. I don't even know what that versus dreams. I don't like the dreaming thing.
I'm actually not afraid of the term dream because I think if somebody goes through something that is such a traumatic event, that they would definitely need some therapy and a way to kind of work that back, that they could make themselves believe it was just a dream. I'm not afraid of that, but I think that in general, eyewitness testimony doesn't usually withhold as much in court. I think the most important part that comes out of this, that people are like, they're so focused on what DM saw, but I think it's really the text messages between her and Bethany that kind of help lay the foundation of the time frame here. That's my opinion on the matter.
Well, Madonna, they clearly did, because in this hearing, we found out that Dylan, it's documented what she was experiencing, at least to an extent. That doesn't mean full on detail, guys, but even what's going on. I heard this. Is everyone okay? No answer, but Bethany may have answered, which again, refer to the PCA, Bethany and Dylan's phone data. So that corroborates that. So she was documenting something in those text messages that she was experiencing right then and there. And I think she got so freaked out, she did not leave the room. But why she didn't call 911 versus waiting hours and hours and hours, I could understand like a shock for even an hour. But for all these hours that passed, and it was almost noon before 911 was called and friends were summoned first, that's the biggest issue I have.
Yeah. I'm open-minded to what's to come out. I don't really have much to say about it because I don't really know what was going through their mind unless it's just been in the form of, court documents. Who really knows? I don't even know how I would react in that situation. It's terrifying.
So what's your point, though?
You're talking to me?
No.
I'm like, girl, you giving me attitude.
Random account who busted a caps locks on me. Murphy, no traces of blood anywhere on him, and the door was open. Okay, and it was okay.
I think it's odd too.
Yeah.
It's definitely odd. When I heard that, I was like, what the fudge? Because my dog would have, well, he's now passed, but he would have been everywhere. Like, it's weird to me. I want to know more.
Good night, Michelle. I think that is absolutely odd too, but dogs are amazing animals, and he was one. I don't know how he was trained. I don't know. Is it possible that dog absolutely, dogs are very intelligent and can sense everything, okay? Did that dog know that there was something wrong and didn't leave the room? That's possible. Absolutely. Do I find it strange if the door was always open? But let me circle back around. The doors were open when investigators got there the next day. Friends were summoned. We don't know where they went. We don't know what doors they opened. We don't know. And that's fine. I get it. And that's why I like when it's debatable. I like when, hey, like this is, fight on both sides. I like that. I'm curious about it too. Oh, wow.
This is one thing that really bothered me, and I guess it's like I'm trying to understand like how Anne says something versus like, I think King Scarlet said it earlier, like, was it prior to police, once police arrived? I had always kind of thought that Murphy was maybe kenneled, and
we all did.
That's kind of why I'm still kind of have questions there. Like, I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket just yet.
That's fair enough. So it would, as far as what we're understanding so far, the upstairs went untouched. Xana's room, that door may have initially been closed based on what we've heard. and Hunter, the friend, pushed it open, and that's where he saw, and that's when the 911 call was made. So as far as I'm understanding, the upstairs may not have been touched, but I have no idea how that dog was trained. I have no idea what was normal for that dog. So again, it perks my ears up too, but I'm waiting. But no, there was no crate apparently. According to Anne, that dog was sitting perfectly in that room with the door open and never made its way through blood to where anything was on him. Okay?
Yeah, it's odd.
It is odd.
Monica asked, does anyone know when Dylan gave those statements of what she saw? Apparently there was multiple. Yeah, multiple. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let me see. I'm looking at my notes now. Let me check my notes. So again, there's over 60 devices with data in this case. That is a lot. That's all of their phones, witnesses' phones, CCTV, all these devices that they have to go through. This case has over 51 terabytes of data. That is, do you know how much? Do you have any idea how much data that is? Because I didn't, because I'm not a tech person until like Wolfie explained to me in how many movies essentially like a gigabyte is or like whatever it was. And I was like, holy crap. Like that was, and it's an insane amount, guys, an insane amount. How do we know that the sheath has 0 blood on it? We don't know that. We know that the sheath has the suspect's DNA, but
A single source.
Yeah, we never heard that it didn't have any of the victim's blood. We know that it was tucked underneath Maddie's leg. So I would assume there may be blood, because we even saw the mattresses, guys. Don't forget, like we saw the mattresses being taken out. Oh, and that was, thank you, Essay. That was very kind of you. Oh, I'm sure, Harlot. So, let me see.
I think, so did you already go over they said there was between like Dylan's statements that were off?
You explain it all again, because I did, but you know me, I'm so scattered and excited right now, I'm not making sense.
No, it's okay. I mean, because it was a lot. Like Anne was kind of back and forth, but Anne said that as basically, huh?
Sorry, where'd you see it was between the mattress and the wall? It was partially exposed, standing in the doorway underneath the victim's leg. I'll pull it back up, but go ahead.
So allegedly, as they are gathering Dylan's statements, she had said that she heard what she thought was one of the roommates running up and down the stairs, and that couldn't be true because that roommate was deceased.
Yeah.
There were just some questions that they had about her statements just in general. Also, apparently there was blood from another source left on the handrail of the staircase. We don't know when that blood was there, what investigators have looked at, but with everything being under seal, and like Anne uses her time wisely to, invoke reasonable doubt, which is her job, but we don't really know the explanation yet by the state or otherwise of what that DNA is, when it was there, why it was ruled out to not be relevant. There's just a lot of questions still. And that's kind of what makes it hard watching some of this, is because you're still left with like so many more questions.
Okay. So, real quickly, the affidavit. The sheath was later processed. Oh, I'm sorry. I also noticed what appeared to be a tan leather sheath laying on the bed next to Mogen's right side when viewed from the door. That would be between her and Maddie. Well, okay. I'm sorry, I said between her and Maddie, I meant her and Kaylee. Now, Kaylee was scooted up to that back corner. So to be fair, I don't know how far on her right side, but where was it that it mentioned like underneath her leg? Was that in the other affidavit or the PCA
Sorry, what, could you state that again? What?
where it specified it was slightly underneath like the leg?
It's in
The Pennsylvania PCA?
no, it's in one of the defense's filings. Let me grab it for you real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, it's whenever they were disputing the IGG, they gave a little bit more color to it. So I'll go find that real quick.
It's okay. It's okay. Because I'm just going to use it just to have the debate. It's like, well, if you know it's from the discovery, then why are you going back and forth with me about it, saying it wasn't? Yes. So, Little Misfit, essentially, Anne's entire fight right now and argument is if you base 17 search warrants on something that can be thrown out, then essentially all of those warrants that come after, everything that you obtain from it has to get thrown out with it. But the prosecution is not using the IGG in trial. So they're saying if we're not going to be presenting this at trial, why are we even arguing it? You know what I mean? Like, we're not presenting it. So, but Anne, and I get her point. I do get her point of, hey, you went in. She's alleging the FBI went in through the back door and accessed through these DNA sites when they were not supposed to. I understand that's an issue. But at the end of the day, the judge is like, you cannot argue that it violated your client's amendment when are you alleging his DNA was entered into the database? No. And I know you're not alleging that that's his DNA necessary at the crime scene, right? No. Okay, so it does not violate his amendment. You do not have rights of privacy to DNA left at a crime scene. I don't know if she was drug tested. And that's exactly what they argued too, Marcus, and it's good to see you. Essentially, these sites are made for the public, for giving your DNA in a public setting to connect with people on a DNA level. And so I know one thing, Karen, I mean, Anne may in fact regret asking for a change of venue. Well, this judge is not giving her as much leeway as Judge did. And yes, and that's what the judge used as an example. He said, can I claim if my second cousin submits their DNA to ancestry.com, can I claim my amendments are violated? Is that a violation of my privacy just because we share some DNA in common? I had never heard Anne get kind of caught up a bit. And when I say that, she still did a very good job, but I've never heard her kind of stagger a bit. And the judge was making great effing points. The judge.
He's done his homework on this case.
He didn't want this case.
No.
No, she didn't have a strong argument because you can't have it both ways. You can't claim that that's not my client's DNA, yet also claim it's violating my client's privacy because it's his DNA. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's very Tish, yeah. Jesus, there were so many things. So
I
Dylan
know.
can't determine if it was a dream. She was drinking. Again, I don't like the dream thing. Murphy with the open doors, no blood. All doors were open, like both doors to the victims. Murphy was barking even after the car left and abruptly stopped. Did you hear how she dropped that in?
Mhm.
Where did the car abruptly stop?
Yeah, that was interesting. I was like, huh.
Yeah. And then you're essentially admitting, yes, that's my client's car on the one good footage that you can't deny that's his literal car. It's going to see it all. But all the other footage is not my client's car, but you stitched it all together in a path of travel that it seems to be the same car. I think that's weak.
Good point.
Okay, trying to get all the warrants thrown out with the IgG thrown out, over 60 devices, terabytes. So the trash, the garbage trash, again, very interesting. She's trying to get that thrown out. You can't take DNA from the trash that was like basically set up. Nope, it is not yours. It is abandoned. There has been case law about this. It's been ruled in superior courts. Absolutely not. Once it is set on the curb and it's meant for pickup, you abandon it. You do not have rights to privacy to trash, and that's what you guys should know yourself. Once you put it out and set it out for trash, it's it. That's it. Okay? It was, Anne was basically trying to dismantle the PCA and said it all circles around to this IgG, like the genetic DNA. And the rest of the PCA is all fluff. Everything we just read, all 18 pages of this, it's all fluff. And they want to pretend like they did this investigation when they really didn't. They're trying to say, hey, look over here, so you don't look over here, which is the fact that the FBI went through the back door to make this DNA familial match, which led to Kohberger, because it took that WSU security guard, because the original Bolo, it was the wrong year. It was a white Hyundai Elantra, but it was the wrong year. So WS Security goes through their database and they say, all right, let's pull up every white Hyundai Elantra. But the year they found Kohberger's, but it was the wrong year. So they didn't, whatever. And it was only after that match was made that the lead detective got in contact with WSU and found this information. And they used it in the PCA. Exactly, Harlot. Yep. And they even used a cigarette butt for another person in this case. So Dylan had numerous statements in the days following. But in the days following her statements, she claimed that she wasn't sure what was real. Okay? So Anne's also arguing, since it's unclear how that match was made, it should be thrown out and all the data following should be thrown out. And she hasn't been able to let this go from the beginning, because they said that the way that they went about finding that match, there is no black and white documentation of it. They threw it out because they're not using it. They're saying they're not using it, but Anne won't let it go, which I don't blame her. That's her job, but it is a bit concerning. And I was nervous that they may have cut a corner, but prosecution said that if the FBI did something that they weren't supposed to do, that's the FBI and it should not taint our case. Essentially, Anne is saying they're faking the entire investigation, that there was no investigation. They used the back door. They had their eyes set on Kohberger and they were locked in and they built everything else around it.
Probably. She also said that like Kohberger's car was facing in a different direction from like the way the cameras picked it up based on what was in the affidavit, and that technically she said that he was like not stationary around that house. He just drove around that area.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I didn't mean to throw you off.
No, you're fine. Was it Inans? Oh my gosh.
But yeah, I mean, they're going to do whatever they can to try to, basically, they're looking for the fruit of the poisonous tree and they're trying to entangle it. And I know even specifically, like when it came to some of the stuff with like some of the search warrants, like there, there's a lot more that goes into like what you can start to look into in terms of a database that's public information than when a warrant is needed. And from I think from my understanding, if the way I'm looking at it is if you see which warrants they're trying to dismantle, in my opinion, that's probably because they got a hit on information with those warrants. AT&T, Amazon, like you could just go down the list of them. There's something there that has Anne wanting to not have that be included in the court because that could possibly make her client look guilty. And that says a lot. It's what's not being said.
And she uses, you see how the house looks from the side, guys? You see what I mean by there's ground level through the front door and ground level through that back sliding door. That's most likely how he made entrance, that back sliding door. Exactly. Beach, please. Exactly. Because Anne's saying the fact that you used the IGG at all, even though they're trying to say, excuse us, we're not presenting that at trial. We're not introducing this as evidence against him. So it doesn't matter. But Anne is saying, yes, it does, because that is what the first warrant was based off of. And then the PCA was built around it. So she's going back to the start and saying, if I could dismantle the first thing the warrant was based on, everything that comes to follow should be dismantled with it. But they're saying no, because we have the rest of this and we're not using it. We are not using that match. But she's saying that match is what led you to him type of deal. You see what I'm saying? Like, so it's this bam, bam. And I could see both sides a bit, but I just think it's fluff because it is his DNA, like, so part of me is like, I understand and you have to do it the right way. But the other half's like, well, shit, they were desperate to find the horrific murder of these 4 beautiful students, but they have to follow terms of service. I don't know, man.
Yeah. I agree, Sally Mae. I think that Anne definitely is using, the court minutes to be able to inso reasonable doubt. But for all the things that she did bring up that I do have questions on, whether it's blood on the handrail of somebody else or other DNA that is in the home that is in a speculative area, because we know a lot of people have been in that home, but is it in the crime scene area? And what kind of DNA is it? I do believe that the state needs to be buttoned up and have those answers ready, or that reasonable doubt she will so well,
Yeah. So you want to explain what a Frank's hearing is, and this is what defense was desperately trying to get.
Sure. So Frank's hearing is going to be whenever you are you're wanting it's basically a court proceeding that's going to determine if the search warrant was obtained legally or illegally. And right now there's been, I believe, 11 motions filed by the defense team, and they filed those individually, so not just in one. And they're requesting that the judge hear that, and possibly they throw out some of the stuff that came from the search warrant. So if they do, for instance, if they're able to get onto this IgG stuff, then they may not be able to present that Kohberger's DNA was found on a knife sheath in there. So it's a very serious, allegation, to say law enforcement violated the um, the defendant's rights in obtaining those search warrants and how those were executed. Um, Not all Frank's hearings are the same. As for people that follow Delphi, it's very different from what you're seeing right now in Idaho. So it could really open the door for, if Anne's able to get this hearing heard by the judge, that possibly if they come down to it, that there's some stuff that they may have to throw out. And I think that's why she strategically went through and pulled 11 motions, which had to do with 11 different warrants, that could untangle the web. And a lot of that evidence that they had that was circumstantial, that built their affidavit, just kind of dismantles. So
And
this is determining
they
what's
could
going to
call
go into
Dylan.
trial.
They could get Dylan up on the stand and question her.
Which, I mean, originally they did not want a grand jury, if everybody remembers, to hear the
Correct.
evidence. They wanted to be able to, interview her and Bethany, and this is just another route, but they're doing their job. I mean, this is what you should do for anybody who believes it's Bryan or doesn't believe it's Bryan. Like, you want to make sure that all of the proper, routes have been taken in terms of law. Now, I do think it's interesting about the FBI allegedly going against the terms of service for MyHeritage to get in the back door. I think that's interesting, because if there's no law against it, then I don't know. Like, what can you do? Just be pissed off with the situation? I mean, I don't know how to feel about that, really. It is weird, you know?
And Kaylani, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, I have to go back and listen to that part because I had that in my notes, but the reason I didn't say that is because I had to go back and compare it to what was presented to us. So do you remember when she was talking about how basically initially they said that the car was caught on camera at 2:42 a.m. in the PCA, but then after they got his phone records back, it shows 2:44 is when he's leaving the residence. So they couldn't go back and admit that 2:42, it couldn't have been his car that was seen. And they were saying 7 minutes is a long time, and you're positioning in a way to make it seem like he's going in a certain direction. But I didn't absorb it enough to be able to explain it to you because I didn't understand what exactly was happening. I have to go back and hear that part again, unless you remember, Shay.
Yeah, that's I'm in the same boat as you. I was a little puzzled by that, and I'm wondering if what they were trying to do is say, like, look, your cast information is incorrect based on this timing. But again, I think it puts back the question of, regardless of the timing of what's in the affidavit, like, that is just probable cause for the arrest. A lot more information develops as you're doing your investigation. It's ongoing up until trial. Does that really change some of the facts that his DNA is on the sheet, that he is a possible, that he is the main person of interest? I don't know. I want some more information on that as well.
Well,
And I kind of felt like the judge kept resorting back to that. Did you?
yeah.
And that was kind of confusing me, because I wanted to break each one of them down. I wanted to hear it.
I'm gonna need to go back and listen over that part again because it confused me and I want to understand it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe we could listen to some of the hearing if you want on one of the parts, We could pick out some key moments.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And these are the mattresses, guys, when they pulled them out. And you could absolutely see, which I'm very surprised they did this without. They usually can put up things, like to prevent it being seen, because you could see the blood even through, or maybe use like a black bag. I don't know. They just put it in the back of these trucks, which I didn't think that was the way to do it either, honestly. But you can even see, the through it, which is absolutely horrible. It's just,
Mhm.
it's so.
I think that was Ethan right there
You
on that
do?
top left one. I do. It looks like his head.
I see what you're saying. Yeah,
I've always thought that, and it creeps me out.
it is a little creepy. Now it can very just well be the way the blood soaked, but we know that Xana was found on the floor. It's very interesting to me. It is Monica. Yeah,
I think
has some. Yep.
I think this like case, it scares the living bejesus out of anybody. One, just because like you've been this age before, or you may have kids in college or kids going to college have been out. Like this is supposed to be like their safe space, their prime time of their life, And to think something like evil exists around this and this happens, it's horrifying.
Look, you could even
Absolutely.
see the blood on the nightstand. Like I was like, wow, I can't believe they're doing this out in the open like this. Look at Murph. This is Murphy, guys. Ugh. Look at Murphy. Poor Bubba.
Sweet baby. I follow his Instagram that Jack
know.
runs. It's so cute.
This is
Ugh.
Ann Taylor. We call him Santa. He's the prosecutor. Ann Taylor. This was Judge, the original judge before change of venue.
I'm glad Judge is off the case.
Yeah.
Like, hope he's happy in retirement, but like a lot of people felt that like he would entertain more in the defense area, not be as and not that they shouldn't be entertained, like in what they're discussing, but um I don't know, he just didn't seem to be very stern. And like Kipler just comes out swinging. It's like night and day.
Yeah. And then I honestly, I really like this judge. I really do. Because he's like, cut the crap. We're not sitting here and going to argue back and forth. We're going to get this trial done. And he wants to get this trial not rushed, versus we need to get through this. And I want to figure out everything before we do trial. I don't want to have the jury having to keep going in and out, in and out, in and out to have different arguments. I want to figure this out now. So when trial happens, it goes as smooth as possible. And I respect it.
Absolutely.
And so to the right, this is the Goncalves' family lawyer. And then to the left, Kohberger.
It's shading gray.
Yes.
And he's there to kind of help with the family understand like what's next and the legal procedures. He is actually under the gag order, even though the family technically isn't, so he can't share much of what he knows.
This is demolishing the house, which I am very much against, but defense or prosecution didn't object it, guys. But here's the thing, because I'm like, oh my God, as a visual person, like I would love to do a walkthrough of that house. They couldn't. It with the chemicals and everything from the amount of blood that was in the house, and then all the chemicals done after, a jury wouldn't be able to anyway. So at that point, I understand that. If you can't do a walkthrough, okay. At least they did a 3D recreation.
Well, you'd have to have the same acoustics, the same furniture,
Yes.
everything in the house. Like that's just not possible.
It's not possible. And the house is demolished. And then here are beautiful victims. Ethan, Xana, Kaylee, Maddie. Look at young Kaylee and Maddie. Look at them.
Mm.
Xana and Ethan. And Xana was the goofball of the group.
She's hilarious.
She, like, you could, all of their TikToks and stuff, like, you really feel like, I'm not going to claim you get to know them versus you get to see what their personalities were like.
Yeah.
And
There's
you really,
Xana with her dad and her sister Jasmine.
yeah.
And Jasmine went to Washington State, so she was a senior that year. For people curious. And actually, for some that haven't followed, they had a parents' weekend. So Jeff, which is Anna's dad, was actually visiting and just was driving home when Jasmine was notified that something had happened at her sister's house. So he turned around and they went straight to the police department.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Pickle. And remember, Ethan was a triplet. He was a triplet, guys. And I really do believe in that energy of twin energy. I imagine the same for triplet. Um, Now the Chapins have stayed more out of the spotlight, and we'll definitely cover that stuff in future episodes. But social media and the families have played a big role in how this all unfolded, again, in real time. A lot is happening, but the Chapins are someone that they've kind of not been in the forefront, and they choose to focus on,
They're surviving children.
yes, and not focus on, I don't know how to find the words. Like, Ethan's mom wrote a beautiful book. I suggest everyone, I'll get the link for it. I suggest
Boy
everyone.
in Blue.
Yeah, The Boy in Blue. And they have, what is it? Ethan's Tulips.
Ethan's Smiles, that's their tulips that they're
Mhm.
doing. And then recently the girls, I think under Maddie's mom, just started a scholarship for them. But hey, randomly, I found that Stacy Chapin, Ethan's mom, she was a guest on, you know who Taylor Lautner is from the Twilight series?
Yeah.
Him and his wife have a podcast and she was on there recently.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was like, what? I haven't listened to it. Maybe we should. That'd be interesting.
That would be. And yeah, Deets, focusing on healing, and that looks different for everyone and every family. This is their chosen path. So, and like I said, we'll get into it moving forward. But one thing I can tell you about covering this case in real time as it all unfolded, I could imagine how difficult this is because you have 4 different families who are intertwined in this case. And as much as I imagine everyone wants the best for each other, at the end of the day, everyone handles things differently. Everyone handles things differently. And so you have one family obviously focusing on their child's justice, just like the other family is focusing on their child's justice, 4 of them. Not all of them go about it the same way. You have one family who may be more part of social media, more in the forefront, more public speaking, and you have another family who doesn't want to focus on that. You may have a family that is pro death penalty, and yes, this is a death penalty case, and yes, Anne is death penalty certified, qualified. And you have another family who may be against it. They are all individuals, and so this is going to be very rough because not everyone is necessarily going to agree with how this plays out, and not everyone handles it the same way. But at the end of the day, They're all going through the worst imaginable grief, the worst imaginable loss. And so I just hope, and I feel horrible because, and that's why I say it often with Wade, right? These families had to wait 4 years to finally hold their loved one's killer accountable. And then within a week, you guys are all over basically saying he did not do it, raising money. And I'm like, I couldn't imagine, because we saw it with these families when it got pushed out to 2025. How are you supposed to ever move on, period, right? But to have a sense of closure before trial, like before, is this the guy? Is he going to be held accountable? Is he going to get off? Like, what? I can't imagine living in that state of not knowing. And they can't start to grieve and move on until after there's a conviction. In my opinion, I don't think I'd be able to, knock on wood, I'd never want to imagine what they're going through, but it's very heartbreaking. And so it's just really sad.
Well, and they say, even say somebody is convicted of a crime and they are on death row, like the victims' families they're not alienated after the fact that this happened and they move on. They still have appeals that they show up for, that they could provide, statements for. So it is an ongoing process, even if justice is served.
Well, Monica and I agree, and this is what we argued all the time. The same way that nobody should be 100% Kohberger is guilty before we've gone to trial, the same way nobody should be 100% Kohberger is innocent before we go to trial. Now, when I say that, yes, expect innocence before proven guilty. Of course, he has that right. But what I'm saying is nobody should have their mind made up one way or the other. That's why I always say I'm leaning in the direction that he is guilty based on what I've seen. But if tomorrow it comes out and there's evidence that points me in a different direction, I'm going to go in that direction. So everyone should be going in. You could lean a certain way, but nobody should be dead set. And here's the unfortunate thing. Unless you were here, like when this was all happening, like this was crazy. Like people, it doesn't matter what comes out, even if they catch him red-handed, are convinced he's not guilty. Like if they come out with bombshell evidence, he's not guilty, which is a problem. There was so much misinformation around this case. Crazy. There were tunnels underneath the house type of crazy. So no matter what, I don't think people are going to accept it. So that's all I could ask as everyone from my community, is just to go in with an open mind and let's go with where the evidence takes us.
Absolutely.
But all right, go ahead.
I was going to say, I have a feeling you're about to close it out, so I'm going to jump down, and thank you for having me.
Well, no, thank you for coming on, Jay. And that's what I was about to say. So we're going to be doing Idaho once a week. We're not going to pick like a set day. We're going to just figure out each week which day works best for us, because obviously we have a lot of stuff going on. But we're going to be doing an episode each week, and I'm really freaking excited. And we need this much time ahead of it to really catch up to come trial. Like everyone should know all the ins and outs. That's what I'm saying. Like trying to even compact it tonight and start it, it's overwhelming. But next time we'll go through Bryan's search warrants, what they found in the house, what they didn't find in his apartment, like, and then the social media. So everything will kind of go through each episode and we'll be completely caught up. So thank you so much. I adore you. And it was so nice just to do a panel with you again. And thank you all so much in the chat.
Thank you again. I love you, and I'll see you later. Bye.
I love you too. So thanks, everyone. I will see you guys tomorrow. If you're into the Wade stuff, me and Tess are going to go live Saturday night with the FOIA that she got back. And we have many faces of Wade Wilson. It's going to be so funny to go over all of this. So I really look forward to that. But we're going to be doing a dramatic reading of the emails continued tomorrow with our lovely readers, Dietz, Nunya, and Jones in. So I look forward to that. So I'm really excited. We got Tisha Wednesdays, Idaho undecided days. We got more Wade stuff coming out, and I just look forward to it. And Stefan Cern goes to trial soon, and so yeah, we got a lot coming up. No, Tokyo, I won't listen to the new call until I catch up on the ones I'm still behind, and I'm behind on calls, so I need to do a catch up for that. But thank you all so much. Thank you to my mods. You guys are all amazing. I look forward to episode 2, and have a great night, everyone.